Welcome back to Season 5 of the True Blue Conversations podcast with your host, Adam Bloom. G'day, podcasters. Before we get underway with True Blue Conversations, just wanted to give a huge shout out to our friend and sponsor, the Warrior U podcast, hosted by Bram Connolly. Bram is a former Special Forces commander, best-selling author, popular podcast host, and human optimization pioneer. He has an authentic style and the unique ability to not only motivate, but also take people on a journey of self-discovery. Through the Warrior U podcast, Bram interviews guests in a bid to explore all things human optimization, resilience, leadership, and coffee. His book, The Commando Way, A Special Forces Commander's Lessons for Life, Leadership and Success, is available now on amazon.com.au. So from Adam Bloom and all of us here at True Blue Conversations, a big shout out to the Warrior U podcast, Bram Connolly, and his new book, The Commando Way, out now.
Welcome back to part 2 of our podcast chat with my great mate, Craig Hamburger, and part 1 was just epic, and now part 2 is just going to get even more epic. So, mate, let's go talk about Op Perth.
Okay, all right, straight back into it. Op Perth. So, DA Nile was the 10th of July, 2006, and then which was the precursor to Op Perth, and then going into Op Perth, and SAS led clearance of the Chora Valley. Well, they initiated, as in they went in and they occupied a local compound within the area, and then we were offset just to the flank, covering the Baluchi Pass from distance with our mortars and everything else. And now we had all our vehicles there, and the initial intent was SAS would go in, do a couple of probes, and we'd be a reaction force that would enable like freedom of action, really. That was the intent. And then once they'd gone in, had a couple of skirmishes, and the Americans were good to go, so they would take one flank clearing up the pass and the Chora Valley, and then our call sign would be on the other side of the re-entrant / greenbelt. So it was funny, there was an old cemetery that the Taliban, not just on this occasion but multiple occasions, would go up and engage coalition forces over months, periods of times, and then they'd break contact from that position. So under the freedom of movement at night and MVGs, our call sign would move in. Actually, precursor to that, we had a couple of decent contacts sitting on that feature whilst SAS were in on this compound, and noting that we'd had our first contact on the 19th of June, which was big enough, and then we had the DA Nile, which was obviously well and truly big enough. There was a couple of our call signs, typically our second mortar team, that had no engagements at all, and they were front right of our call sign, providing obviously cover and the mortar capability of the Chora Valley where required. So we were on this feature, and we got hit this day, and the mortars were just getting flogged. And I remember my platoon sergeant, "Let's get these boys, let's move them back," and these guys were just hiding under their vehicle, and it's no fault of their own. They hadn't had any opportunities, to be honest, to test themselves, so this was their first shakeout to contacts, and we're all laughing because, like, you know, obviously we've been in it before, but not laughing at them. It's like, hey dude, you need to get out and move this vehicle. this gunfight's happening. So like skull dragging their mortar tubes, so 80mm mortars back, you know, which are heavy, they're cold steel, and then their vehicles and moving them back, and then so we had a couple of scraps over a couple of days, and then we got this resupply and another contact as the resupply came in, and I remember my platoon sergeant and I were just standing at this back of this battle MOG, which was an upper armoured. By upper armoured, I mean weapon systems MOG, which was used to provide supplies in the field. And we're unloading this MOG, and the contact rang out, and then myself being a 2IC with one of my guys, and then every other team had their 2IC and one extra, and then they're all just laying on the ground. And I remember me and the platoon sergeant were just standing there, and he's like, "Hey, this work party's not going to do itself, guys. You've got to get up and, like, you know, this gunfight don't matter. Let's go." And I'm just laughing because, like, I'm looking at him, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then all these guys are just laying around, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Let's just get it done." And yeah, so that was another funny iteration that happened. Such a good bloke too, the platoon. I learnt so much from this guy. Like the way to be a leader for him externally to Brett was really good. Like his methodologies that he used and his approach to leadership, and he would leave the team commanders alone and only deal with the administrators, which were the 2ICs, and let the platoon commander and the team commanders go about their leadership techniques and that. So yes, he was a leader, but he was just making sure that he didn't interfere with certain realms that he just didn't need to be a part of, although he'd help and deal with the planning. Anyway, so about day 2, 3, under night, we went in. We just stayed to the slight left of this cemetery, and we went down there, and we just went in. We were the last team in the order of march, and sunlight was coming up, and the Taliban were coming out to set their positions for the day. And I remember just coming into this position, and I got my weapon in my shoulder, and I'm the last one in, and Brett's putting down guys like all around defence, and I'm just weapon in the shoulder moving past everyone, and Brett's just looking at me weirdly, what? Like not talking, just giving me the signal, what are you doing? And I'm just like moving my laser up and down past him, and he just flicks and turns his head, and I'm nearly past Brett, because I want to get past Brett before I engage, because like the angles weren't the best, and if I'm starting to shoot, who knows what Brett's going to do, because he doesn't know what I'm actually about to shoot. And he just turns around and just sees this bad dude come out of this building with this weapon, who I'm already locked on, ready to go, and he just goes crack crack. And I'm like, ugh. And just like the whole process, I'm like, I'm going to get one here straight up. Nah. And then it was done. And I was like, oh, well, you got him at least, like really just, so devoed. I'm like, I'm all over this. And anyway, so we go, that happens, we sit down, we go through our morning routine, i.e. just checking all equipment, make sure we've got everything done, and we go through our processes, and then this other Taliban comes, and he's coming from another angle, and my one of my diggers is like, oh, yep. I'm like, yeah, sweet, you got him, yep. Boom, boom, missed him. And then, what? Have another crack, miss. I'm like, what the Anyway, it doesn't matter that he's missed him. Anyway, this dude's hightailing it out of there, and the koala walls and the walls of some of these compounds are 8 foot high.
Yeah, right.
And this Taliban, one bound, boom, straight over this wall. And I'm like, did you see that? Like, did anyone else see that? And like, yeah, he just jumped over that wall. Like, wow, like it was just that's the effect of adrenaline. You know what I mean? Like people just, the superhuman powers of just, yeah. So, wow, that just happened. And anyway, so from there, that was that. And then the platoon, we waited full daylight. We waited for the other call signs to be in position. And then what we did is we started our clearance. We went from back to front, being the lead call sign, because that's how you'd rest people. You just put them different, you don't want to stress everyone out and make them fatigued, because they're always at the front doing all the work or covering and clearing. So our mission was to go and clear this white vehicle that was moving around the area, very dodgy. So we got this vehicle, and he's sitting on this bend, so you can tell he's sort of in a tactical position where he can manoeuvre. And we're moving towards him, and over to the left, the Americans are just in massive contact from whatever Taliban are over there, which are deeper in the greenbelt. So we're just sort of going through the poppy fields and all the fields of whatever else they were growing, corn or whatever it was. And then we got the call to break from mission and go and assist the Americans. And so we went to ground. So we were the lead call sign, and then we ended up becoming the rear call sign because we held that position. Everyone else pushed past us, turned left, and then headed down into marry up with the American call sign. And I remember it because obviously being the 2IC, you then become the last man in the whole patrol. And just as we passed this compound, this Taliban sticks his AK-47 over the wall. So obviously they don't look sometimes, they just do what they call a dirty 30, and he just emptied this magazine and missed everyone. It's like, oh wow, that was crazy. It's like, yeah, we just keep walking, like, because the Americans were just getting their ass handed to them, so we couldn't really just stop, and like we had to keep going and covering all these arcs and all these other enemy positions as we go, because they literally just had their platoon sergeant hit on the chest with an RPG. So it was getting pretty hectic and pretty dire for them, and they were only young. So they'd only just finished the Battle of Fallujah, which was quite big in itself. Different terrain, different enemy, and they were young kids, really. Anyway, so as we're going down this corridor, and we were the last call sign in, and the majority of the platoon had just moved in, waiting for us all to come in, and they were sort of in all around defence as we come in, just to consolidate. And I could just see these rounds in the air, like a volley of fire coming in. And then one of my diggers goes, where do we go? And it was like this half koala wall, so about half a metre tall by half a metre thick. So we get down behind that, and I said, just go to that wall. So we get there, and I'm just watching these rounds come in, and in that moment, in that time, I'm like, wow, I'm about to die. And I just had this physical feeling like a bottle emptying its water. So just think of it just went all the way through my feet, all my toes. It just felt like my blood had just exited my body, and I was at peace. I just come to terms with death, and I don't think I was ever the same after that. It was a very physical, okay, I accept this. This is what it is. And then once that happened, then we moved into that wall, just in that koala wall, and the rounds either hit the tree, which made it worse because if they exploded in the air, then they're more frag, and then the brownout was there just from all the debris hitting the dust, and then the dust is there, and all you hear is this, and then just another, and there's different angles, there's different, like the pressure, obviously, from the rounds, the percussion, and then the strike, like, I'm hit, and then there's other people are hit, and then, like, so there's a few wounded there, but over to our right, there was these Americans hiding down behind this other wall, and then as the dust starts to settle, you just see Brett in his crouch, in his famous Team 3 on me. So we just get up, all of us, and we just go, and like the wounded are going to get dealt with, and so we just start, and we go to marry up with these American call signs, and ping ping, they're actually shooting at us. So these Americans, I'm like, no, friendly fire, don't shoot, don't, like, we're just running, like, what are you doing? And they're just like dinner dish eyes, and so Brett marries up with the young commander, and like there's havoc happening over to the left where the platoon commander's just been, hit on the chest with an RPG. So you can only imagine there's not much left. And then other commanders there, and he goes, what's going on? What's going on? And he goes, oh, there's these sniper position, or there's this dug-in position forward of there, and we need to clear it. So anyway, we go through and clear a couple of compounds first, then we consolidate our wounded and make sure that they've got somewhere to go, and then we deal with that. So even though we'd married up with the Americans and we're doing what we need to do, we just had to secure locations to look after our own, get our wounded out of the way, consolidate those positions, which we did, left them in there, and then we gathered all the marksmen that were left. There was maybe about 6 of us, me being a 2IC, Brett being the other marksman, and then 4 other marksmen. I had another one in my team, and then another couple of teams had other marksmen. Anyway, so we go forward once we'd consolidated all our wounded, and Brett married up with the commander on the ground, and then he goes, okay, Bergs, you go forward and you set position, that location, find the position, let me know what you get, isolate where you can, and good to go. So then I moved forward, put the guys down, and I moved like a link back, so I would have visual where Brett was, but yet still have visual where the boys were. I wasn't going to give them any orders. They knew what they had to do, and then they found this position, and what it was is it was only one weapon system, but there was a whole heap of guys in this creek line that were just moving up and down the creek line. And then my mate, really good, really disciplined, he ended up being a sniper after this trip, I think, wailed on this first guy, headshot, and then after that, all these other Taliban kept coming up and picking up the same weapon, and as soon as they pick up the weapon, he'd shoot him in the head. And so he got like, I think 9, but he got, I think it was 9 or 6, and he only got 1 in the chest, and the rest of them all in the head, and he was devastated, like, as crass as it is, that he got 1 in the chest and he couldn't get them all his headshots. And I'm like, wow, that's like, anyway, so we go back and said, Brett, yeah, isolated, we've secured the position, the Americans are looking around, and we just come back through. By this stage, we're fully bearded up, and, you know, like, we were looking a bit scruffy, been out in bush a couple of days, just finished the DA Nile, and the Americans are going, you guys are fucking crazy, man. You Aussies are fucking crazy. And, you know, pardon my language, but, you know, that's exactly what's going on. It's like, you know, we come back, give them a count, yeah, we're taking care of this, and it's like, they're just, wow, like, getting it, making it happen. Anyway, so from there, we moved back to the compound where all our wounded are, and one of our seniors who was wounded, so we had our platoon sergeant wounded, we had one of our section commanders, another team commander, and a digger at the time, and then Brett, but we didn't find out until after the fact. Anyway, so we get our wounded, and we want to move them back to our vehicle position for consolidation, and one of the seniors is like, oh, where's my weapon? And like, by this stage, he's already on the green whistle, so he's like fully doped up, and he goes, I'm not going out there without a weapon. And anyway, so we deliberated and like, okay, we'll just give him an empty weapon, he won't know. So anyway, we got his pistol, or we got a pistol, because we took all their weapons off them, because you just don't know what, anyway, they could be seeing aliens and shooting at aliens. And anyway, so we just took off all their weapons, and we gave him back his pistol. But before we gave him back his pistol, we took all the ammunition out of it. And then he goes, yeah, sweet, I'm good. So we just had his pistol, his pistol in one hand and his green whistle in the other hand. It's like, mate, you are just in cloud 9, And again, he had no idea. But to get him out of there and to not have the fuss of dealing with someone given attitude and just being a wounded dude, and so we just got him out there and got him up to the cars. And as we get to the cars, I'm counting in, and Brett's there, and he just drops. It's like, what's going on here? And then he was just out cold. So the adrenaline for Brett had worn off, and Brett, during the initial strike from the RPGs, copped a bit of frag down and went, because he was kneeling, it went through and behind his kneecap, and then into his big toe. Yeah, and then so we had another wounded, and then had to get him a part of the CASEVAC, or casualty evacuation. Yeah, so that's how that happened.
Is that action, is that where he was awarded his MG?
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So not DA Nile, that was op Perth. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. And for you, as you've mentioned throughout the podcast that he was, that was the pinnacle for you of working along, being his 2IC. Seeing him in action do that of, righto, on me, let's go. Geordie tells it really well as well. Was that just like a whole, like, that's this dude, like that's who that is? Yeah,
but we already expected that. We already knew, because now we're in that rhythm, and it, being isolated in a country where your sole purpose is to gunfight, eat, sleep, shit, fight, train, repeat, like that was it. So like you just get very used to that. Brett's going to do Brett, and you just be ready. So, and he made it so easy for us to never ever question, because he was always at the front,
leading from the front.
It just the way, but he was never like cowboying. He was just like, job done, we need to do this. He was very reactive, but it's like his decision-making processes, which I tried to use in my further team commander positions. He just assessed the situation, understood the mission, and then just reacted, knowing that something had to be done. And this is what he didn't even know who was wounded. He just knew that our mission was, if we stayed there, obviously they've hit us once, they're going to hit us again. So just make it happen.
Because I know Langer's touched on it in his podcast that he said he was a great teacher as well. Like he was just he was a great operator, but a great teacher.
Even in so I did my ACQB, which is Advanced Counterterrorism or Close Quarter Battle instructor course, and he was the supervisor running the orders and giving delivery to the students on how orders. And as a his role in that was to give the orders on the assault. And wow, he that to me was next level Brett. And I'm like, wow, this is where he's at right now. So I'd already seen him in 06 and 03. I worked with him in Iraq in 03, but 06, I've seen him lead, and then to see him deliver these orders in the manner in which he did, he must have, wow, just the growth. And I'm like, okay, this guy is next level again. And that was in 09.
Yeah, right.
So, and just
going through the gears.
Yeah, but with such a humble, professional, this is the standard, meet this standard. And you didn't even need to say anything. No one else needed to say anything. Not even the chief instructor needed to say anything. You just saw, wow, that is the standard of the regiment right there. But he was next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have that op Perth, and then is that towards the end of your deployment? Or is that midway through?
No, that was... wow, I can't even remember. No, well, we had a few big ones in 06. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, right. Just so kinetic. Just that kinetic fighting.
I remember... it must have been... Because he came back, he just missed one op and then was back in again.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, so he didn't get Kazovac to Australia.
Yeah, right.
He just got... good to go, and then came back. Because I remember 2 weeks before coming home, we were doing a job in that photo where I had my marksman rifle out. That was about 2 weeks before coming home because I did my back, and I was on ACQB course 2 weeks. So I got Kazovac from that job, climbing that hill with all my gear, and then so he was there for that one. So
you hurt your back, and then Kazovac back, and then that's pretty much that's the end of your trip. After you,
yeah. So I got Kazovac 2 weeks. I don't know if I came home early. I don't think I came home early, but 2 weeks from being home, I got put on my ACQB course.
Which is, I've heard is just intense.
And I'd already, so it's funny because going back in time, 2004, I did my first CQB course, and Bram Connolly was one of the sergeant instructors on the course. And it was the very last day. So we used to do Sydney, and then we'd go to do some of the room floor combat stuff and a couple of other things that we needed to do. Anyway, so I was in... they had a aircraft mock-up as an aircraft, so you learn certain skill sets and everything else. Anyway, so it was the very last run-through on the second last day. So literally, there was nothing else that needed to be validated. I had passed absolutely everything on the course, and then with the ambition of going back, and then you would rotate in onto Tactical Assault Group, which was at that stage a trickle posting.
Trickle feed in, yeah.
Trickle feed in. And then Bram comes out and he goes, mate, you've passed. Don't worry about it. You've done everything. And then about 10 minutes later, the chief instructor comes out and he goes, no, you haven't passed. the injury is too severe and it's going to take you 12 months to recover from that, so you're not going to be current, so we're not going to pass you. So, heartbroken, and anyone that did ACQB understands how intense that course is. Like, you, in a 4-week period or 6 weeks, I can't even remember, you're losing 6 kilos easy. You're in body armour every day, gas mask, helmet. It's just all day, every day, and it's just intense. So, yeah, that sort of broke me a bit, broke my will. I was devastated because when I got back, I found out that I'd only had a grade 1 tear because I fell out of the aircraft. My knee just gave way.
Yeah, right.
Literally coming out of the aircraft on my last run.
Oh.
So I was good to go. I was literally just exiting the range, and my knee gave way, and I had a grade 1 tear in my knee.
So it wasn't your ACL, it was your...
No, just a MCL grade 1.
Right.
So it just gave way. So as I was exiting the aircraft, as I'm kneeling down to get out, because you have one foot off to step down, the knee that was bent just gave way.
Just that sheer weight of all your body
Just
armour.
constant.
And, constant. Yeah.
Getting smashed. So, yeah, that was that.
So you have that, and your 06 trip, that's your best trip?
Oh, look, it's hard to compete with...
They're all different.
The severity of intensity of gunfighting, and the amount and the abundance and the freedom of action almost. It's not that our ROEs weren't robust, but the Taliban were just so flippant that it just made us easy to engage. And you're talking, groups of 30 and 100 and 80 and 20 and 15, where my other trips, and this is where you've got to respect your enemy, their evolution of their skills and their understanding of our rules of engagement dictated how they would go about business. So, like in 2008, when I got my first team, which is another story in itself, they had changed again, and you're more skirmishing now, and we did have some decent gunfights, but the tactics were different. The time of day was always the same. Last light, first light was always gunfight time. And typically, depending on where you were within the country, it could be all day, depending on what the Taliban have been told to do by the Taliban commanders. So, yeah.
So you finish your 06 trip, come back 07, and do you go on to helping out with selection courses?
Yeah, so I did in 07. I literally spent, if I wasn't doing supervisor courses, actually, that's why I did. So in 2007 and 2008, they did 2 selection courses each year. I did both of those. And where I could, obviously I deployed in 08 as well. I would also supervise on their reinforcement cycle, so their roping, their demolitions, their ACQB. Well, no, I didn't actually do their ACQB because I wasn't qualified AQB supervisor until 09. But, you're doing all those courses, helping out on amphib courses. 07, I did the amphib course down in Melbourne. And then in 07, I was to do my amphibious supervisor course, but because I was playing for the Army rugby team, rugby league, sorry, I played the Anzac Test, the Anzac Test opener up in Suncorp. I didn't actually do my supervisors, but I literally gave all the lessons on nautical navigation. So I literally did all the hard lessons to deliver that the guys that were doing their supervisor tickets, because they were doing a lot of practical as well. So they'd have to set conditions for their surf neg. They'd all have to do like on the water, so you're planning. So one day you would have off as a supervisor the day before you are to be the lead supervisor the next day, because you've got to make sure you plan your task, confirm administration, and then a supervisor stays back with you that's already qualified and goes through processes for your delivery of your transit, if you're just doing a transit, which nautical nav, time, space, speed, there's so many things that you've got to be able to articulate to do that. So anyway, I ended up doing a lot of the lessons that, not that they didn't want to do, but they were focused on a lot of the practical side of things.
So were you full track at this point, or were you just a lance corporal at this point?
Well, it's funny because in 2006, I got promoted from private to lance corporal to be Brett's 2IC, and then at the end of that trip, Brett goes, "I'm not going to put you up for promotion." I'm like, "Yeah, of course, mate. I've been a full track for 6 months. I've been a lance corporal for 6 months, and I'm not experienced enough to be." And it was quite funny because he goes, "I'm not putting you up for." I said, "Well, that's cool, man. Like, dude, I'm happy to be a lance corporal for as long as it needs." Anyway, we get back, and that December the 8th, the platoon sergeant promoted me to full track. So I'd been 8 months as a lance corporal,
and then to full corporal.
Straight to full corporal in December, but it didn't get recognised till the next February. So I had 2 promotion certificates, but the promotion validated on my records wasn't till February, but I had 2 certificates, one saying the 8th of December and the other one saying February something. So I always say December the 8th is when I got promoted, and that's when it stands, but obviously the logistics behind it all didn't get recognised until the next February. So
far out. And for that, because as you say, you were that first trip 24 at that point?
In 06? No, I was 25, turning 26 in October.
So for you to go to say, yeah, I'm not ready. That's a pretty harsh assessment of your own where you're at.
No, you've got to be realistic. And I wasn't ready. There's a lot of scenarios within that I just learnt what it meant to be a leader. So I still have to put that into practice again and again and validate that in my mind. And you got to remember, getting your green hat back in the day, there was no extra money. It was just about the job. So, for me, I never chased promotion. I never chased the look at me status in that regard. I just wanted to be really good at what I did. So, in my eyes, yes, the luxury I had is that I had Brett as my team commander and I had my platoon sergeant who was next level again. So my growth, having those 2 mentor me, just made very easy for me, I suppose, to be promoted. But it's funny, I got promoted to Lance Corporal because Brett's 2IC stuffed up. So I got promoted into the position as a Lance Corporal, and then going in 2007 when I got promoted to Corporal, I was still a 2IC at the stage, even though I was a Corporal, and not until 2008 when I was still a 2IC. So like sergeants have a full track 2IC and corporals have a Lance Corporal 2IC. So depending on where your severity, seniority is. So I was the senior team commander's 2IC, ready for promotion into my junior team commander position.
Yeah, right.
That's it. The logistics of it all is how it goes. And, so you'll spend, typically, if you think about it, I spent 8 months as a 2IC. As a Lance Corporal, I then should have gone to the senior team commander's 2IC if I was to be promoted to Corporal.
Yeah, Corporal, yeah.
Yeah, so and that's another journey. So, you could be a Lance Corporal for 3 years.
And then go into your Corporal.
And then go into your Corporal junior team commander position. But in 2007, I did as many supervisor courses as I could. And then in 2008, I was the senior team commander's 2IC. And then the junior team commander stuffed up and he had a security breach. And so whilst we were away on our MRE, so mission ready exercise, I then found out that I was getting his team to take to Afghanistan.
How are you mentally preparing for that, for your second trip? Like you're going over, but now you've got the responsibility of you're in charge. Like it's your own team.
Oh, I didn't really overthink it, and that's probably a luxury for myself, is to not overthink it. And you've also got to understand that well, it's quite funny. The 2IC I had at that stage, he was more than ready, but he was paying his penance for something that happened previously as well. So it's quite funny, you know. Everyone goes, but you just get in and get it done. And that was, to me, I had. It's funny, two of the members that I. 2 or even 3. I think 3 of the members I just put through the selection in 07 ended up being my diggers in that team.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, and then, same thing happened in 06, like fresh diggers straight into combat. 07, finish a reinforcement cycle, straight into combat. Like, people don't understand, like, you don't have time to scratch. You're just, like, straight into it. So, but the 2IC was on that 2004 selection course that I... See, there you go. It just all...
Full circle again.
Well, it's a small community, but he was actually one of the candidates on that 2004 selection. And he ended up being my 2IC.
So the end of 07, are you doing your mission rehearsal pre-deployment training again to go into 2008 back in... No,
the start of 2008, I helped out on selection.
Yep.
And because I think in 2008 we went over a little bit later in the year, and I maybe mid-year we went in, because I remember doing the selection course when I got back as well.
Yeah.
So...
Far out, busy year.
Yeah, well, that's just how the regiment, you're either supporting, you're taking leave, or you're going back over. And because, we had I had my first son in 2009, so I could have gone back over, but I was dedicated to Delta Company. A lot of the guys were chasing trips, and they were loving it. Like, a lot of the guys were like, if I'm not gunfighting, I'm not doing anything. And that's hard to, fathom that people are chasing gunfights, but that's what we train for. Like, a lot of the guys didn't have girlfriends because they didn't want that burden. They just want to get over there, gunfight. Like Todd Langley, how many trips? Like 5?
Yeah, 5.
But he was married with kids. Dedication, you know what I mean? And then to be that wife, like to have that family at home, not knowing, just crazy, like epic.
Well, I mean, even your missus, same thing.
Oh, the boss, don't worry, she's definitely the boss.
But same thing for her, mate. You did, like, we're going to get through it later on, but you're up there in your trips too, like across like all
the
your
spectrum,
across the spectrum, like, and what she went through, like crazy, like, and just a part that isn't talked about a lot, and I'm going to get into that in the new year, but that's something that I do want to touch on, is the wives and the partners of you guys, because it's not spoken of.
Well, they're the true heroes when you think about it. Like, they're holding the fort back. So it's being over in Afghanistan, as intense as it is, it's a very simple life. I said it before: eat, sleep, shit, train, fight, repeat. That is it. No bills, no children, no traffic, no anything. Like, that's it. Clean your weapon, go to the gym, drink some protein, eating a mess. Everyone's cooking you 3 meals a day. Like, cool, you're going out and you do some gunfighting, but that's what you're there for. You're there to train.
Good money too.
Well, the money's obviously a bonus, but you're not sitting there going, oh, it's payday Thursday, what am I going to spend me thousands on? Yeah. Like, you're too busy, you don't care. Like,
just working.
Just getting it done.
Yeah.
So...
So, you go in 2008, and what was the role? Because you'd been there in 06, and I just want to touch on too, because in 2007, Luke Wolseley was killed, and how was that for the regiment, losing the first guy, and you'd obviously known Luke and served with him?
Yeah.
How was that?
You got to think about how many tours we'd already done. So 07, we'd already had rotation 1, 2, 3. He might have been rotation 5. I can't quite remember. It makes it surreal. And Luke was a phenomenal soldier, well liked with everyone. It's not that you think you're invincible. Sometimes you think it'll never happen to me, and I suppose you never ever think about that. because you're just so engulfed in the job. But when it happens, and when there's the realization that we're not invincible, it really humbles and brings into perspective, I wouldn't say the risk. The risk is always there. The sacrifice that we are willing to make. And, like I say this to a lot of people, Cam got his VC storming a compound to assist a mate who was in massive dramas. He needed to clear that compound to then go and help his mate clear another compound who was struggling and was bogged down in another location. And they tried to enter into that compound multiple times. But Luke Worsley was gunned down in a compound, and Beatty went in there and cleared that compound. So he died getting his VC. How he got his MG. The man is a machine. And it's funny because, we're talking about Luke, but Beatty used to drive this old bright orange Ford funny car to work. I'm talking no roof, I'm talking hot rod, just the bucket seats, bright orange, engines fully exposed. And he used to have his, because he was quite intelligent and he was studying, he used to have his reading glasses on driving into base. So there's this bloke, big, stocky dude, driving this bright orange hot rod with his reading glasses on. Hey, Betty, this big cheesy grin on his face, but oh wow. And they're just the moments you just remember, and Luke was just such a well-liked member of Bravo Company. I mean, I spent most of my junior years in that company. That's where we forged, the brotherhood of, the original Bravo Company ended up, most of them becoming the original counter-terrorism Charlie Company, because Charlie Company became the counter-terrorism company for the Trickle, and then so Bravo Company was the senior company for green rolls. So it was just, I don't know, to lose him was an eye opener. It put it into perspective of the sacrifice we're willing to make.
And then we'll get into 08 now, and you lose Jason Marks when you're in country, and this hits home because it's in your company.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your 08 trip.
Okay. It was quite funny actually. The first time we went outside the wire in 08, because I'd already done 06, I had that real nervous, here we go again. It's like I almost had suppressed it, going, okay, I'm going back out into the Badlands, right? So I had to, once I'd actually gone outside and I got onto route, what would they call it? Route Bear. I don't know. They didn't call it Route Bear. Okay, Bear. It was Bear. Route Bear. I was like, okay, all right, I'm out. I'm in it. But I just had to. It's like being a virgin again and popping the cherry. It's like getting out, and that's sort of that emotion. And then, we had a couple of really good scraps in 08, and we did a lot of key leadership engagement. We did a lot of disruption operations. We did a lot of reactive force to threat. I remember we did this one job where this engineer was sitting on my bonnet of my car. We were the lead call sign in, and he was sitting on the bonnet of my car looking for signs of IEDs. So that's how loose. I'm just going to sit. He goes, he was a crazy bloke. He was a warrant officer, really cool dude. And he goes, I'm just going to sit up here, Bergs. If I tell you to stop, just stop. So he was just looking for sign. Anyway, we got this call that there was a cache with weapons and everything, money and everything in this little house on this, off this road. So we ended up going as fast as we could to go and intercept. and try and get there so that they couldn't set up. Anyway, there was this one bloke there, and he had a grenade in his hand, and he's not a threat yet because he hasn't attempted to throw it. Anyway, so we pushed down with my team once we debus. So we rush down, being the lead call sign, to get this guy. The rest of the vehicles are there covering. Anyway, there's all these cows and bulls in his backyard because that's how they lived. Anyway, so he gets in between the bull and the cow or whatever it is, and my young digger that was just there, I'm like, come on, go and get him. And he's like moving with the cow, so you couldn't actually get him. And then he pushes the cow and he drops a grenade, like as in to throw it, and then just piss bolts as like, where's he going to? And then he'd actually just come out of this little room off to the left, which is where the cows would sleep at night. And there was all these weapons, and that's where the grenade came from. I don't know why he chose a grenade. I suppose if you've got a weapon, you're going to shoot him, but the grenade's like, okay, what's in his hand? What's in his hand? And then he throws the grenade. Anyway, so we take pot shots of this guy trying to get him, and it was quite funny. My medic was sitting up in the admin vehicle, and everyone's trying to get this bloke, and he's running off, and you could see his mates over in the creek line, and they'd obviously set up or taken off with their weapons, and he was running to them. He must have been trying to figure out what he wanted to take and was just taking too long, so they just they left him. And it was funny because I call my mate Patch out, so he patched out his own target. Being a medic, you can fix people anyway. So everyone tried to shoot this dude, and the only person that could shoot him was the medic. So he got him through the arm and went through his arm and into his lung. So he had a sucking chest wound, and so he shot this bloke, and then we'd gone through consolidated set cordon, and then we found all these weapons down in this well, and like millions of Afghani dollars, and like, so worthless to us, but it's just like how much was there. It was massive cash, massive. And anyway, so he's come up to me and goes, Bergs, I don't know, I don't think he's going to live, eh? I'm like, you're the medic, bro. Like, how long till, because we had a helo coming in to get this guy, because, you know, you look after your casualties. Not that we had any, but look after him. And it took 2 hours, and I said, mate, just have a go, like, try and keep him alive and see how you go. Anyway, he kept him alive. And we actually, I remember, as they were carrying him on the stretcher, my mate wasn't carrying him. We got a photo with the helo was there, the helicopter was there, and they're putting him on the helo, and we're like standing there getting a big cheesy grin with thumbs up, going, hey, we did it, woohoo! Like, yeah, pretty crass. But yeah.
So is this the first? This where Muzz comes in as well? So
Muzz is my senior team commander.
Yeah, right.
So I'm the junior team commander.
Yeah,
so we just work in, like, the only time a junior team would come under the senior team is one, if task or mission directs it, or if say Muzz goes, hey, I need us to go here, grab your team, we're going. I just say, yeah, cool, no dramas. I'm still working within a 6-man team, but Muzz would give me his intent, or, hey, I'm going to go here, you cover, then I'll cover, then you go. So he just gives the overlay of the mission, and then we just execute it as a team.
Because I know he was, just one of those dudes. Again,
Muzz is mate, he's a freak. He's such a good human, and he just loved gunfighting. He would chase it. It's funny because if you're in it and he knows that he can get there, you want to make sure you get it done. Otherwise, Muzz is coming, and then he just gets amongst it. He really just loves it. It's like a kid in a candy store, and it's hard to say about gunfighting, like being a kid in a candy store. But he's just that dude that is wants to validate himself all the time. So whatever he did, whether it would be running, whether it be gym, whether it be counter-terrorism, whether it be demolitions, Muzz was always validating Muzz. Like, he would always go, okay, I know that I can do this, so his expectations others were, your turn, you one up, next up. So that was, working with Muzz was awesome. I mean, that's only one contact. You know, the other one we went to in 2008 was the Good Friday job. So we were originally tasked to be the overwatch, bounding overwatch. So our vehicles would be in the high ground, and the other platoon was doing a clearance of this greenbelt village. And we'd done a couple of bounds, and the call came over that there was a group of fighting age males acting suspiciously off target in this location. And then so our boss is like, hey, we're going. Got the word from the OC. These guys can take care of themselves. We're going to go and interdict and see what's going on. So we get in our cars, noting that a fully loaded SRV can only travel maybe 40 k's an hour, maybe, because it weighs about 7 tonne. And you're talking about a 2-litre engine, no turbo car.
I can just hear revving its...
And the Land Rovers, they were so good, but loaded. And yeah, so anyway, we go best speed, single file on this road. Muzz is in front of me because he's lead call sign section, and then I think there's another section in front of him, and then you've got the admin vehicles behind me and the OC behind me. So we get there and we look over to our left, and there's probably 10 fighting age males standing around again, lucky, because what we've done is we've countered their ambush. So they were in their last orders, their last prayer, whatever it is they were doing before we got there. And the rules of engagement stated that you're not allowed to fire until fired upon. You know, because they could be carrying a weapon, and anyone that knows Afghanistan, like the local police would be carrying weapons with no uniform, or you'd have a 12-year-old in police uniform, a 12-year-old, mind you, who is the police officer of that village. But he's just slung his weapon, so he's no threat. So you can't just go around willy-nilly just shooting anyone that's carrying a weapon. So anyway, our rules of engagement were not to fire until fired upon. Anyway, so when we start rocking up, there's a bike, it took off. So whoever that was, we couldn't get them. We just couldn't catch them. Anyway, so they see us and they just start running up into the mountains. So there was average age, the diversity of age was 15 to 55. And a 55-year-old Afghani is equivalent to maybe an 80-year-old Australian. Like, they've walked a hard life. They've lived the land. Anyway, so the young fellas, they run all the way up to the top of this mountain. And the old fellas, they're still plodding along trying to get to the mountain so that they can climb and find a safe space. Well, the young fellas get right to the top. They don't care about what the fat old Taliban are doing. They just start opening fire. It's like, sweet, we're in gunfight. So all the old fellas, all the old Taliban, yeah, they find some rock, but they're just easy pickings, really. Like, and I, as crass as that sounds, like, you get a few of them on the ground, and then you're trying to hunt down and find all these young fellas up in the mountains, and it was just like, it was going like crack here, there, and there, and getting target indications and firing some heavy weapons and some 84s into some certain rock faces, and you're talking about shale, volcanic, hard rock. And then we had an A-10 Warhog come on station. You know, for the listeners, that's an A-10 aircraft is a aircraft built around a minigun. So the minigun is the process. Like, so, it's the whole aircraft is built around that one weapon system. So, you know, like, and they're not the fastest birds in the air. Anyway, so it comes on station, and so we're sitting there and we're firing away at all these Taliban and in this gunfight, and it's going for a while, and the A-10 comes on station and does a couple of gun runs across where the cliff edges are, and obviously they might be able to see the Taliban and see their muzzle flashes more than what we can from air. And then they come on the speaker, and it was a chick. Oh my God. And I like her call sign, if I remember it, it'll come to me one day, and it was just like sexual chocolate. Like, just listening. You're talking about a chick who's running an aircraft built around a minigun, who's doing gun runs on Taliban, I'm going to come and do another pass. I got this. Yeah, yep. Oh, my God. It was just like sexual chocolate. It's like, I'm going to marry you. Like, but it was just nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
You don't expect it.
No, and it was just like, and you know they're fit because they're pilots.
Yeah.
They've got to be fit, and they've got to be like straighty 180, as in like, it's all business. It's like, oh my God. Like,
I want to talk about the dead man's click.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I'm going to get into that after the gun runs were coming in. But no, we're about halfway into the gunfight. I couldn't tell you how long it went for, maybe 3 hours, so let's say an hour and a half in. And we were firing at this old bloke sitting behind this big rock, and nothing was coming of it. And then one of the snipers got out and he was hunting. Anyway, this other bloke standing, so he was, so think about it, we're on a road, and then to the left of the road was a creek line, then a little spur, then another creek line, then another spur, then a little creek line. Well, the third creek line over, this Taliban stands up with an RPG. No one even saw him stand up because we were all in the distance looking for this, and just see this crack. And over to the left, so behind my vehicle, I had the officer commanding and the sniper sergeant. They were doing a target package and coming up with a plan to eliminate some of these guys. And this RPG just landed maybe 30 metres from him and just went buzz. And we just all fixated straight onto this dude in the creek lines. And we're firing everything trying to get this bloke. Well, he was tucked up underneath like the rock. So we hit him with 84 airburst. We hit him with heavy weapon, everything. But nothing was going to get to him because he was just so concealed from fire. So it was funny because my driver was religious, like loves going to church, and each of their own. Really really nice dude, and it's Good Friday. And so we'd been at this guy for a little bit, and I said, "Come on, let's go." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Let's go and get this guy. Let's go and get him. So get your stuff, let's go." And I said to my gunner at the time, who was up in there with a Mark 19, I said, "Mate, just watch your angles. We're going to get this dude." And he's like, "Yeah, no dramas." He wanted to come too, but, he's got a heavy weapon and still in the gunfight. So I start prepping, getting around there and ready to go. Yep, no dramas. So we start going. We start heading into the first creek line and just coming up over the front knoll. And I look over to my right, and there's my crazy Welsh mate. I just put through selection in 2007, mind you. And he goes, "I'm not fucking missing out on this." And he's just, this is Muzz's driver. Yeah. "I'm not fucking missing out on this." And he just come straight across. We're in gunfight. So then I'm like, yeah, righto. So we just start, all three of us now, start moving over the second creek line. Get to the second creek line. I said, all right, when we get to the next creek line, he's just going to be over that ridge. All right, so we're going to grenade his pit and we're going to follow it in and do that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no dramas. All right, let's go. So we crest, obviously, weapons up, down into the third creek line and just sit on the back face. And he's just over the other little bit of a ridge there. And I said to my driver, I said, "Mate, away you go." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Throw a grenade, mate. Don't come all this way and not do your job." I said, so he goes, "All right, no drama." So he gets his grenade and he posts the grenade over into where he was, and it was slight right to where I thought he was. And I'm like, oh, no. So then I looked at my other mate, my Welsh mate, Dino, and I said, "Mate, your turn." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Go on, mate. You come out here, let's go." I said, "But this time cook it off a bit." So what it means when you're cooking off a grenade is to let go of the pin. And when the pin goes, you've got 5 seconds. So you do a count. 1, 2, and on 3, I want you to post it, because then 4 and 5, it'll go off. And it landed straight on top of this dude.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, yes, that's it. And I said to him, I said, "You can both throw grenades, but I'm clearing this pit." And I'm like, you just want to have that final,
of course,
fuck you, to pardon my French, to the enemy. And as he's posted it, I thought it landed straight on him. And so I'm like, yeah, cool. So I go to follow the grenade. So as the smoke and the frag dissipates, I'm like, yeah, cresting this little knoll, just about to come into the position, thinking he's already dead, and I'm just going to clear it. And he stands up, and I can just see him. He's got frag, like big bits of shale hanging out of his calf and his legs muscles, and his dress, because they wear the dresses, is all like cut to pieces, and he's just got, like, I don't know if it's bone hanging out of his leg or if it's just, like, so it landed on him. And he just stands up from, let's say, 5 to 10 metres from me and just turns the RPG straight at me and just goes click. So it's called a dead man's click because it doesn't go off. But if it goes off, he's either going to hit me or just miss me. But I'm proper screwed if it comes at me. And I hear the click, and I'm like, as it's gone click, I go to a knee because training kicks in, and I'm like, this is wrong. I shouldn't be going to a knee. I should have been advancing to him and shooting him on the move. But I go to a knee and I put 2 into his chest, a crack, and I could just see where it hits him in past his shirt. And I'm like, yeah, and he starts going back. So think of like the Matrix, and like you're going slow-mo back as you've been hit by a force. And he kicks again. And as he's going back, I'm like, what? Is he still alive? And as I do the target assessment, I can just see a bit of his something at his throat, just a big white thing hanging out his throat. My 2IC from his vehicle had fired his Mag 58, which is 7.62 belt-fed machine gun, and burst this dude. And as I've shot him and gone back, my 2IC has taken out his full esophagus and just destroyed this guy's throat. And he's just gone back again. I'm like, what was that? And I get to him, because you clear a pit, and I'm bang, bang, one dead enemy, try and kill me, you motherfucker. And I give him a bit of pepper, and then I step in front of him, I clear all the weapons, my guys come over the knoll, and they set their position, and then I got a couple of other mates from other cars, like, oh, where are we going now, Bergs? What have we done? I said, whoa, we're not going any further forward. You know, we need to get orders. So we've cleared the threat. From here, everyone just wanted to go forward, and we just wanted to hunt more Taliban, because that's what the boys want to do. Yeah. I'm like, no, we're going to go back. Anyway, so I pick up the RPG, I pick up his machine gun that he had in the pit. That's what I mean. Why wouldn't you pick up your AK-47 and try and whack me with that? Yeah. I'm guessing that he had another RPG round and he thought he could get it off in time. Yep. So we take all that back, and by the time I get back, well, we're heading back, and I can see my CSM around my car at the back wheel. My back wheel had been shot out, so he must have been on the radio saying, hey, they're coming to get me, and he's told the guys up in the mountains. So my car got shot to pieces, and my company sergeant major was actually changing my tyre at the time. And as I get back to the car, I sit down on the back side of my other rear wheel, and I just sit down, and like, obviously there's so much adrenaline going through my body at the moment, and then the adrenaline just exits my body and I can't breathe. I'm like and then a big breath, and like the adrenaline had just, again, it's like that feeling had just drained my body. And then I, in my own little space, in my own little time, and a lot has been said about this actual moment, especially behind closed doors. Like, that's what fucking gongs are made of. And pardon my French again, in my own moment, I'm like, I've earned my medals. I've earned that moment right there has validated what I wear on my chest. I'm like, that's what gongs are made of, right there, in my mind, and it's only to myself. And the CSM sticks his head around. He was already there, and he heard me say it. So he hasn't interpreted that is what gallantries are made of, and that I think I'm deserving in his mind, without even asking the question. That's what he's done. So the gunfight goes on, and like, it's funny because we're still in a gunfight, and there's me and all my boys on my car taking glory shots with the RPG, with the round still in it, the AK-47 and all these other weapons that we've captured, taking this photo in a gunfight still. It's like, oh, photo time, boys, let's go. Like, it was odd. Yeah. But everyone else is taking care of the gunfight anyway. And then, a few gallantries actually came out of that gunfight from other teams, other members, like the clearance force that went up to clear through the valley after most of the gunfighting had happened. There was a couple of sleepers out there and they ran in and cleared those sleeper pits and positions, and like some serious gallant acts happened in that moment. A couple of young fellas got gallantries, commanders got distinguished service medals, so like it was a decent hit out. So like I had a bit of backlash from other seniors within the regiment of entitlement, and like that's just not me, and I didn't really want to talk about it, but like it is what it is. It's happened the way it happened, and life goes on.
So you have that action, and then just after Anzac Day, Marksy's killed. And what happened on this day?
So Anzac Day was really, really good. I remember we had all these shipping containers set up like grandstands, and then we were sitting there, and I remember the rest of the Australian forces came into our compound, because our compound was a compound within a compound, and they all came in, and we had the Anzac service in our compound. So that was really, really good. And then 2 days after, on the 27th of April, we went out to clear, I can't remember where it was now, Chena Clay, I think it was, Chena Clay. And then one platoon, the other platoon was coming through on one road, and we'd pushed up a couple of kilometres more, and we came in through the valley first. In hindsight, what it had done was given the enemy early warning. And now, just to put it into perspective, Bravo Company had their OC shot in the arse in this location. I think Alpha Company had a massive big gunfight in this location. So a couple of big gunfights had happened, and so what they had was a couple of Chechen snipers, like real disciplined fighters, and it ended up being that this was the one of the last locations for the Mujahideen, who had fought off the Russians back in the day. Anyway, so we come in from the valley side, and there was a couple of spotters on the hill, and again, rules of engagement state that you can't fire until be fired upon, blah blah blah. Anyway, there's a bit of chatter on the radio, so we all thought we were going to get IED'd. So we had all our search and engineers out clearing the path, thinking we were going to go IED. So we're going actually quite slow. And what had happened was we came into this pass where both sides were high. There was only one way in, one way out. And we get in, probably 80% of our call sign is deep into the pass, and they just ambushed us. They just hit us with absolutely everything. And the mortar team and the team at the back, which is where Jason was, they just got their ass handed to them. So they had watched us all come in, and they didn't hit us from the front or the sides. They sort of hit us from the back and then off to one of the flanks where we couldn't really suppress or engage without being in that location. So they'd hit it perfectly. So, one of the guys got shot in the arse. Jason was behind his vehicle, and early on in the piece he got hit by the sniper, and then my mate, he got shot twice in the leg, and then another bloke got shot, one of our JTACs got shot in the elbow. So we're in this gunfight, and it's all happening, and my call sign was just unable to provide vehicle support, so I debussed and then moved up into the high ground with my platoon commander at the time, who's now a doctor. And then we're in this gunfight, and there's a bit of footage on YouTube and around the way in certain docos of my helmet footage of the severity of being surrounded by the Mujahideen and the Chechen snipers. I remember getting out of my vehicle and I got 3 rounds at my feet, and I'm like, wow, and they were 3 well-aimed shots, just not quite set. The group was massive, was real close, but they just hadn't like zeroed me in. Like just yet. So, and I hadn't had my camera on yet. So after that, and when I went up into the high ground with my boss to try and do a battlefield analysis, I put my camera on, and it just sort of opened up the battle space a bit. And like I had a couple of rounds just buzz over my head over to the right. So then I moved to the left and found myself a little enclave where I could sort of observe. And then my boss moved over to the left, and then my other mate come up and he went to the right. And I said, "Hey, just letting you know, I had 2 rounds go over my head and just in that position." He goes, "Yeah, no, I'm good. Ping, ping." He's like, so then he starts moving. And it's like, dude, I just said that to you. Like, you can lead a horse to water.
There's a reason I moved.
Yeah, there's a reason I moved. Hey, look, I'm not going to order you to move, but I'm letting you know that I nearly got shot in that position right there. So I've given you fair warning. His arm all right? Ping, ping. All right there. So he started moving a little bit there.
Because I know, having Geordie on, that day he said of all his trips, he remembers that day that he said we got our asses handed to us.
Yeah, we got our ass handed to us. Definitely got our ass handed to us. And it was the initial, the way. Obviously, it's their land. It's where they live, so they know exactly where the choke points are going to be and the positions to best affect their weapons and have us ineffective to supply covering fire or whatever it was. So the boss is like getting orders from our OC to push forward and clear, and the boss is like, "What do you think, Burks?" And I said, "We are getting our ass handed to us," and it's in the footage, the original footage I've gotten. I'm like, "Look, we can go forward, but we don't know what's there. We're already getting pinned down by these locations. If we go any further forward to provide, so what we were initially trying to do is to provide fire so that we could get our wounded out and that we could manoeuvre the whole call sign back to where we needed to. But our cars had been shot to shit. We'd had a lot of rounds come in and, injured and wounded immediately. So, like the fight, although we need to stay in the fight, we also now need to consolidate our wounded and get our wounded assessed to what their level is. So, when my mate got shot twice in the leg, and we'd already had old mate shot in the arse, and Jason was in the back of the car when he was already shot. And as the boys are putting my mate back in, he got shot in the leg. The sniper shot him again, trying to hit one of the other boys, but shot him through his arse, and it come out next to his dick.
Yeah, right.
So we get like crazy. It's 3 times.
Yeah.
And then so he talks about it in the doco about how he knows that he was nearly going, and I actually ran the triage that day because the CS, the company sergeant major, was just like, "Oh my God, like we got wounded everywhere." So he was a bit under the pump. He wasn't really handling the situation that well, but it is what it is, and it's no fault to his own. So I just said, "Yep, I'm already in it. Let's go." But we had to fight out of that position. Like there was getting the wounded out, skull dragging the cars out, manoeuvring to marry up with our other platoon. And you hear the boss talking about we've got wounded, we've got KIA, and getting out and then securing a HLZ. It was mayhem, but we still eliminated a lot of the threats that day, but we got our ass handed to us. Because
how long was that battle? How long were you in that battle for?
Oh, again, time flies when you're having fun. I don't know, a couple of hours.
Yeah, right.
It just happens.
Flies.
Yeah, yep, we need to do this now, we need to do that. So I think the luxury of being a commando and in the special forces realms, you're never not thinking ahead, you're never not reacting. So we always were manoeuvring. We were never bogged down, other than coming up with a workable solution to manoeuvre the casualties out, the vehicles out, and then consolidating, covering positions, and all the things you go through in a big gunfight like that. Like the snipers, where were they? How could we, do we fight forward? Do we just get the wounded out there? Will we even get out if we try and get out? It's just mayhem. And then the OC was up in the mountains watching the whole thing, and he ran past his coming down the mountain. He ran past a gun position, an enemy gun position, which could have taken him out. Like, it was just, they were ready. They were waiting, and it was just on for young and old. And they were the Mujahideen, so they knew what they were doing. They fought off the Russians. They're not stupid.
So, what was that like at that point, hearing KIA, like one of your own guys? How was that amongst
for that
the group?
for that brief moment in time, your heart sinks, and then you snap out of it. Like, because, like,
You got a job to do.
yeah, like, wow, like, those words are real. Like, that just happened. Like, and okay, cool. So, one, it's not you. One, it's not one of your immediate members of your team, but you know that someone within your platoon is no longer with you. So, you know, we fought our way back out, and we married up with the other platoon. We set the HLZ, so Helo Landing Zone, up for the casualties to be evacuated. And I just went about my business. As I got to the casualty site, it was underway. I just told my boys to do the CAS and ammo, and I just went in there and talked to the medic, prioritised casualties, prior ones, prior twos, prior threes, the KIA. So Jason was up a little bit isolated from everyone else. So not everyone's just looking at Jason. Yeah, because their thought process is, you know, the prior one, my mate who was going in and out and he was about to pass, you know, he needed his tourniquets reapplied. He needed more tourniquets, as in like tighter. His bloods, his fluids needed to be, you know. So then we're going through, like, that shot in the elbow. He was a prior two. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't life or limb. So
as your mate was life or limb because he's going.
Correct.
As he says on the video.
So that, and we have to prioritise. So I try and bring a bit of humour in to the equation, and me and old mate who's nearly dying, he goes, oh, you know, like, is me dick okay? And he's, you know, he's having a bit of, but he's actually being jovial.
Yep.
And that's exactly what everyone else around him needed. Even though he's been shot, he's experienced enough to know that he needed to change the dynamics in the environment. So he made a joke. And my other mate, who was good friends with Jason, he was upset that we were laughing and making a little bit of joke, you know, when Jason was up there. So I said, look, okay, no drama. So, you know, quite a memorable moment for myself, really. I went up to Jason and the body bag was blowing around and he wasn't really in the body bag, and his thermal blanket was blowing over the place. So I tucked him in, and on Jason's chest, on his over his heart, he had the Southern Cross. He had a sly smile on his face and a dot above his right eye where the rounded entered. So you know it was a sniper because it was in and out. And, you know, as I go to put him in the body bag and I try and tidy him up a little bit, I put his one hand in and the other hand in, and on top of his heart was the Southern Cross, and I put his hand over his heart. And to me, that's a very good moment, even though it's such a sombre moment. It's like, you know, my last moment with Jason was, you know, you're at peace now, mate. Thank you for your service. And I just tucked him up and put him in the bag, and, you know,
just crack on with it.
Well, yeah, by that stage the helo was coming in. Prior one, I think we had two prior ones and then a prior two. I can't remember if they took three at a time, and then the second bird come in and got the other guys, and then I think then they took Jason. So Jason was last out because you can't help. Yeah, so that's how that happened, and then consolidated and went back to base.
So in that, do then, like, you lose Jace, and then do you guys go back out in the field very quickly to keep on mission? Or
so 2 days
happened?
after Jason, we went straight back out into the same village. We set up a platoon harbour, just off the other side of the ridge, and then Muzz's section. So Muzz's team went in on foot, and my team went in on vehicle. And what we'd do is we bridged the gap. So it was the platoon harbour, the overwatch position, which was my position, and then Muzz's team clearing the village. So we'd always have a link, so we could always manoeuvre. And Muzz was in doing a clearance. There was nothing happening, no one there. And then me and my driver look over to the left, and there's this man and his boy sitting there with his radio, and he's given the radio to the boy and made the boy sit behind him. And what he was doing is he was communicating through his son our locations and our positions and everything else. And then, so what I'd done, knowing that I had a call sign out in the field, and I had my 2 vehicles up in this position, I had my driver, who was a marksman, we both lined him up. And I said, mate, we're just going to wait until they're in line, and we'll shoot the dad, and it'll go through and it'll get the boy. So we'll get them both. That was the intent. And, as much as I'm glad that it didn't end up that way, it just had to be done because they were coordinating an attack. Anyway, so I've got on the radio and I said, all call signs, be aware, this will be my call sign shooting this. I have a target, I'm eliminating target. And then my boss gets on and goes, no, you're unsure. I said, what do you mean I'm unsure? And he goes, why would you get on the radio and tell me you're going to shoot? And I said, well, boss, we have a call sign that's out on patrol. I'm eliminating a spotter and a threat that's on the radio. I'm letting everyone know that it is me firing that round. And he goes, no, don't. You're unsure, do not shoot. I'm like, righto. So I've just been ordered not to shoot. And I'm like, okay, right. So then I got my other car. Actually, they ended up just leaving 2 people, 1 with each car and myself. So there's 3 of us, and then 3 went out. And then I ordered them and came up with a tactical plan to manoeuvre around, so not infringing on the clearance, but manoeuvring around where they were in a position to capture this dude.
Yeah, right.
And bring him in for questioning. So it took us ages to get him because he was very wary and watching, obviously, that everything we were doing. And just before they went to get him, and he picked up a rake and he started raking something and trying to act like he was a farmer, his boy went and did something else. So obviously he knew that we were coming. Anyway, so we captured him. We dragged him into the car. Muzz came back through. Nothing done. We've got this bad dude in the car. Muzz walks back up to the vehicle harbour, and then I drive up there with this dude, and I just really agitated. Anyway, so this dude just starts praying, and okay, he's going through the process. He's bad, and he's like, yeah, he's doing his prayer, and he's getting ready for death, and he's already blah blah blah, and it's like, so then the boss goes in and goes, we'll come up with a plan, and then so what we're going to do is a night clearance. So we knew that there was bad people there, and then the plan was, so we send our interpreter in to talk to this dude. Hey, you're gonna go in and you're gonna tell us and show us where all these bad people are. Yeah. We won't kill you if you do this. Yeah. Sweet, no dramas. Anyway, so we do a night clearance of this village, and just before we go, we're right in the middle, but we're just isolating to where the actual enemy were, because the buildings that we cleared, all their sleeping gear was all on top of these roofs, so they knew we were coming, and then they were still warm, so they'd just taken off and they're all consolidating, getting ready to fight. And then this bloke that we captured, they're coming, just started yelling, the Americans are coming, they're coming, they're here, the Americans are coming, and then we couldn't shut him up because we were trying to do and then he starts biting. He started biting one of our dudes, and this, anyway, so, and then obviously he's ruined our whole, so they've either gone up into their caves or they've gone up into, and so we had no way of finding any of these bad dudes that have shot Jason. Anyway, so we ended up taking this other dude back out.
Yeah, right.
Some of the boys had big chunks out of their hands, and it was just biting them, and we're trying to, now we're in the middle of a Badlands where we just had one of our KIA done. This guy has given up our position. It was just like the Benny Hill show. It was just a comedy
of errors.
A comedy, not even of errors. It was just like the processes of like this dude. I couldn't shoot him. I wasn't allowed to shoot him. Cool, no dramas. Yeah, I just dealt with that. No dramas. It is what it is. As soon as I had him out of the car and I had my piece with the boss, I'm like, okay, cool. You're the boss. I don't care. And he was a really, really great boss. And then we're carrying this stretcher out with this dude that's just tried to get us all killed, and then we're going to save him again, and anyway he goes to prison. It's just a culmination of error, but we didn't get any more of the dudes that took out Jason.
So you finish that job, and then you come back, and then what's happening after that?
There wasn't much of many tasks, and we had one just before we went home, and we were going up to the border, and we were searching for an IED facilitator. So that was one of our big missions going into just probably about 2 weeks before coming home. And so what we'd done, the idea was we go in, we search for this guy who's been disrupting and just causing mayhem with IEDs. So it was a night task infill. And so we're going in and we come in, land, and we just stay quiet for a little bit because we landed right in this village. And then the other platoon was further down so that we had both sides in infill and exfill, and then we had the mountains up to the left. And then we're sitting there around this compound, just quiet, just watching, and you hear these voices. And you see these two Taliban working in pairs, and they're talking and they're whispering, and they know we're there somewhere, and they've got their AKs out, and they're like, we could see them because we've got night vision. Yeah, the luxury of night ops. And these two guys, you can see them, they're whispering, and they're hunting for us. And then you see all these red lasers, zing, straight onto these two guys. And I'm lasering these guys, and I'm getting on my speaker, and I'm like, one of you young fellas, shoot these guys. One of you young fellas, shoot these guys. Like really trying to get, and it's as crass as it is, you want to be able to validate as many people as you can, you know, and maybe someone hasn't. And then I'm like, I'm just about to pull the trigger, and he just, I'm like, oh, thank fuck for that. Because, you know, like, you can do it all yourself.
Yeah.
But you don't grow
your team.
Well, you don't grow and validate the organisation by one person or one, like, team doing everything. So, you know, like, you try and share. Anyway, that was the intent of it, and they couldn't see us. So it was like, gave us time. And there's all these lasers on these dudes. So, you know, like, someone shoot. So, boom. So, anyway, so me and my 2IC, we go and, because you've got to get evidence and document everybody you either kill or capture, depending on role. So, me and my 2IC, we need to take photos. So, we drag this body of one of the individuals into this creek line. He's got his turban on. I don't know where he's been shot. You couldn't really tell. Anyway, so when we're dragging him, his turban starts to come undone, and I'm just dragging him in because we need to take him down into the dead ground so that the flash doesn't actually give away our position as much. Anyway, as we're dragging him down, his turban fully comes off, and with the turban, off comes the top of his head. Like from the ears around, obviously within the brain, there's a lot of fluid around the brain. So what's happened is the percussion, or maybe the tamping, they call it tamping, which is the pressure around the object, is compounding the percussion, which has then separated his whole scalp.
Far out.
From... that's the only thing I could think about, the pressure and it literally from his forehead, around his ears, the whole back of his scalp, clean, one split. And as I pull him in, his turban comes off, top of his head comes off, and his brain lands on my foot. And I'm looking through my night vision, and I'm looking down through his cavity of where the brain was. Like, his eyes are still there. I can see straight through his nose. I can see straight down his throat. I'm like, wow. And I just laugh. I'm like, wow. I'm going home in 2 weeks. Yeah. I've got a brain just landed on my foot. And I now have to remember this because there's no other jobs after this, and this is the last one. And I just remember this brain just being on my foot. I'm like, wow. Anyway, so the other platoon get a little bit more kinetic than we did. And they actually, they ended up getting... So we got a couple, but they got the majority of the IED facilitators, not just one. I think they ended up getting 13.
Wow.
And the amount of explosives and everything else that was destroyed on site was just phenomenal. But and then just on first light, or no, actually it was in the morning. It wasn't even first light. We'd conquered the village. We weren't getting any more fire. The helicopters come in to get us, and this is one of 2 times in my whole career that I actually felt special. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like doing the job, but I actually felt special. So as we're all getting on the aircraft, and we're getting ready to take off out of this valley, I'm sitting there on the side of the aircraft with my legs hanging out. I've just got my little strop hanging me in, and I've got my weapon out the side. I'm just like, yeah, killing it. And the takes off, and then we're going over the mountains, and I've just got my weapon out the side. I'm just hunting for more targets, and I'm like, okay, today I feel like I'm Special Forces. Today I did, like right now, in this moment, regardless of everything else I've done.
Yeah,
I'm wow.
You pinch yourself.
Pinch yourself, like hanging out the side of an aircraft with your weapon hanging out, with all your mates behind you.
Well, it's a long way from when you've come in '99 when you joined, mate. Like,
but we just killed all these IED facilitators, and like mission done. Going home in 2 weeks. Heaven forbid, 2 weeks. There's no like downtime. I will be in my front door in 2 weeks.
And the thing is too, you've got, like you say, you've nearly got. You've been in the army 9 years at that point. Like 08, so 99 you joined. Nearly 10 years. Like that's pretty cool. Like you wouldn't have foreseen that when you joined the army that you were going to be doing this.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Hanging out the side of an aircraft. Like,
and it's funny that's not even in gunfight. Just hanging out the side of an aircraft, stropped in, hunting.
It's something Muzz said as well. He was like, he goes, yeah, flying in a helicopter. He's like, this is unreal. He's like, this is what I joined the army for. This was the event. Like, this is unreal. And so you have that. You come back, and so 08 happened, and then you come back, and your Muzz, you rotate in 2009. You're on tag, and your Muzz is 2IC.
Yeah. So
what was that like?
Being that I hadn't actually been on team, I didn't get a team. So I hadn't been on counter-terrorism, so I didn't get a team. So I ended up being Muzz's 2IC, which was absolutely amazing. But the very first thing I did in 09 was my close quarter battle supervisor's course. So I was very current in the modern teachings, relevant teachings, the execution of task, everything. So it was actually a really good preparation, me going on team in 2009.
So was this where the whole company rotated?
Yeah, so we were the first company to rotate fully into counter-terrorism. Yeah.
So was that, you obviously you'd been, so seeing what tag is, and I've had a lot of your guys on, and they're like, it is kinetic. It's like, it's as close as you can get to being in combat, but you're in the domestic domestic side of things. What was it like? Like,
well, your mindset's operational. Like, you are, ready to go at a moment's notice. Your drills are second to none. Your timings, everything you're doing is structured, and it's for a purpose. If you're not in Afghanistan, which is the purpose, then you're back and you're training and you're doing courses. But this was, you are on call, online, ready to go, bang it in.
Because it's your last resort. There's no other fallback.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah, the force of last resort for counter-terrorism within Australia. Yeah, that's right.
So, did Muzz had a high standard, and you guys like?
Muzz's standard was ridiculous. So, going through a process each week was literally the same structure because we needed to have consistency throughout. So our shooting. And then we used to do room floor combat, which is all your internals, externals, roping, whatever you want to do into doing the room floor combat. And at the end of that, probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've been going from, let's say, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. So for 5 hours straight, you're just shooting. And you're sweating and you're setting up ranges and you've done like 20 run-throughs. You've done heaps. and then you go through the processes of back brief, next mission, next target, and just adding different scenarios. At the end of that, it's like, all right, we're running today, lads. It's like, all right, cool. So you have all your gear, less even your weapon. You just have obviously no ammunition in it. The first one we did was 10 laps. So we went up 4 flights of stairs, across the roof. We go down the fire stairs, down the back of the training range, around the front, back into the range, back up to the stairs, across 10 times. In gas mask, full fighting order, helmet, body armour. You've just been on the range for 5 hours. And then, like for me, it took me, I think, 25 minutes. Some guys were doing it in 18 minutes. But I'm talking short legs, fully kitted up, running up these stairs. Some of these boys were that fit. They were running up 2 and 3 stairs at a time. And then across the roof, down the back, around the side, and go again. Like, you get lapped. You just don't stop.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If you don't do 10 laps, you're walking back. And that's another 10 Ks back to base.
Oh,
so you are, you know what I mean? You're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it takes you, like, no one ever went over, like, half an hour.
Mm.
But the more you did it, the better you got, the more conditioned you were. And you were lean, mean, fighting machines, like, literally to the T.
Far out. And I want to talk about the day that changed your life, and you talk me through that day.
May 25th, 0400, doing a live hostage training exercise, live fire. So live hostage, live fire in the mock-up aircraft at the range complex. And go figure, live fire, live hostage, I get given a team the day before. Hey, typical, Burger's getting a team the day before. All the other team commanders are doing something else. So I had a Bitzer team. Like, I don't think even Muzz was there. You know what I mean? So, okay, yep. So we rehearsed because you've got to get to know who's on your stack, what they're doing, how they operate, what their positives are, because they've been working in other teams. So I had bits and pieces of different teams come together to be in my team. Mm. And we're ready to go. We're doing the job, 0400, H hour. And we did a rehearsal, and my door opener he didn't get the door very well. So I wasn't too confident in the rehearsals. So then when we went in to do the job, he did it perfectly. And I remember the door opening being, like, real clean. And then I don't remember much after that, because as I've gone to make entry, apparently, and I only learnt this years after the fact, the guy who opened the door bumped me off the ladder. And the snipers thought that I was a echelon bag, like a big green bag, getting thrown out the door. So I've come off an 18-foot ladder, 6 metres. The only saving grace was my helmet and the pads that I was wearing in my helmet. So I fell 6 metres, I landed on my head and my shoulder. I had 6 hours bleeding on the brain. I had, so going back again, I had my company sergeant major at the time, which cut all my gear off me. And I had like a UM, which is an underwater medic, who are like the extreme of medics. Like, they do all underwater stuff for divers and everything else. Between the two of those two individuals, they saved my life. I had the death gargles going, your body. You don't know. A lot of people don't know that when your body shuts down, it starts to make certain noises, and just your body goes through a process. Anyway, well, they kept me alive, and I remember coming to just a little bit in the ambulance, and I'm the actual reason that they fixed the range roads going in, because it took the ambulance an hour to get me out of the range because it was so bumpy. So, but I had an hour bleeding on the brain. I had 5 months of vertigo, so I couldn't stand up without falling over. And then I had a complete personality change. So in saying personality change, I couldn't tell you the differences now to then, because I've grown into my new self. But when I actually went back to work, so let's say 5 months later, so it was at May, June, July, August, September, October, I went back to work. I was saying stuff, and I was almost having an out-of-body experience going, what the hell just came out of my mouth? Who said that? And it was me. I was the one saying it.
Yeah, right.
And so my interpretation of things had changed, where my responses were just so different. And anyone that's had a head injury of that magnitude knows that, there's certain things, so I became very outspoken, very direct in some regards, and I didn't really like incompetence or the lack of leadership. It really started to get to me. And then, so I was pretty much 2 IC to Muzz. My very first task as a team commander,
You nearly die.
I fell on my head and I nearly died.
So that, in its sense, you said that you're at peace in 2006 when you had that near-death experience.
Yep.
In 2009, you're as close as you can get to, death again. What you remember, and now on reflection, do you feel that you're at peace again with what had happened?
As disturbing as it comes across, 2009, if I hadn't woken up, I wouldn't have felt dying. I wouldn't have, unless there's an extra little bit that someone tells you feel your soul leaving your body, if I had not woken up from that fall, I wouldn't have felt any different. I wouldn't have known that I had died. I just would have been dead. And it's happened since then. I've had that. I wouldn't say near death. I think it's a death experience. It's not a near death experience. It is a death experience where introspectively you go in and go, wow, if I hadn't woken up, I wouldn't have known that had happened. I just would have been dead. I just didn't. Yeah.
And that's the thing. So many people say, "Oh, I've gone over the other side and come back," and you've done that on multiple times. And as you're saying, there's not there hasn't been anything. You've come back and with having your brain injury, was for a while there, was it hard to keep up and get back in the pace of work?
No. The only thing was in the next tour, so let's say 2009's done because I just recovered. I did a few brain tests in 2009, but I got cleared hot. I was ready to go.
Yeah, right.
I got told you're going back overseas as a team commander in 2010. So, and to be honest, my team was phenomenal. I had such a good time in 2010, but I didn't do myself any favours in 2010.
Well, let's crack into, so that happens. Let's crack into 2010. So after you recover, 2010 comes around, mate, and you're deploying again. What was happening in 2010 from you were there in 2006, then 2008? Where was the war at in 2010 when you deployed for your third trip?
The dynamics had obviously changed. Obviously, we're very focused on partner force and handing back Afghanistan to the Afghanistan police, or just giving them back their country. But in hindsight, look at it now. Our vehicle movement had changed. Obviously, IEDs were so much more prevalent. the airspace. We were getting different assets available to us. The mission was the same but different. Like, intent was, so a lot of key leadership engagement, which is then handing back, trying to find out, the Taliban had gotten smarter, they'd done things differently. They become more brazen with their attempts that nothing was ever close in combat unless you really hunted them down, or if you went into, the Helmand province, or, but, none of that really happened in 2010, so it was just different.
And this trip, Muzz was there as well, and you'd also served with Troy as well. So
yep, Nighty. Yeah.
And to both previous guests on the podcast. And what do you remember about this trip?
Oh, geez, it was, there's a lot that really, like the big one when Nighty was hit on the hill, in starting of the actual tour and trip itself, on tag the year before, prior to the incident, I was a bit dubious of my platoon commander at the time. He was a bit gung-ho, more so gung-ho than he was the alpha. He just wanted to validate himself, which is fine, but within reason you've got to be able to validate yourself. Like a couple of incidences on tag, and then obviously me falling, and then maybe becoming a little bit more flippant at the mouth of individuals. I got there in 2010 and we were doing some lead-up training in country, just, finding our feet. And, I even said to him, I said, look, I don't understand you, I don't get you. I'm not going to sit down and have a coffee with you. And that was just a one-on-one conversation. It wasn't like I'm degrading or belittling. I'm just trying to let him know that I don't understand him. Like, it's not like we're friends and we're going to sit down and have a coffee or have a brew and talk about the day's activities. I just wanted him to know that I'm not on the same level as his thought process was. And he took that very personally, which is, again, a show of his maturity at the time where, it was just two individuals. If I was a commander and one of my guys come up to me and said, hey, look, I don't understand you. Like, what do you mean by certain things, this, and the rest? I go, okay, righto. Like, it's a one-on-one conversation, like, it is what it is. At least you're doing it to my face. Anyway, so that didn't go down very well, and then, I was very, very good. I've known RSM at this stage for, easy 10 years. I'd known him since I'd been at the regiment. I was a bit flippant with some of it, my comments towards him, just jovial because he was jovial with me. But then when I'm jovial with him, I get checked by my sergeants or you can't speak to him like that, that's the RSM. I'm like, anyway, so that there's a lot of learning my new boundaries of how I was as a individual. But it's funny because checking myself and, not being as flippant with these individuals, I became a little bit more disciplined in expectation. So I was becoming more big army after the fact and getting checked. Well, okay, if I need to change lanes. So I became a little bit more rigid and a little bit more big army orientated, like discipline. This is what is intent. This is how it's going to happen. But with my team, and that was after 2010. 2010 at the time, our first job out, I've got two new dudes that have just come through Rio. Our first job out was the Gombad Valley, and we flew in thinking we're going to be there for 3 days, hitting the belly button feature. So our overwatchers went in, which is the heavy weapons, they got hit. The OC and the commandant, they went up onto the belly button feature thinking that all the bad guys were down in the valley and would just go up there. So the first person to get a confirmed kill on that tour was the OC. The officer commanding.
Wow.
Got the first kill on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that should never happen. But good on him.
Yeah.
And I'm not ragging on him, but it's just like, okay, cool, man. We're all validating here. We're all getting this shit. It's all happening. And then for those first 3 days, which ended up being 5 days, we like the other platoon was getting in it. We were getting in it. We were getting sporadic fire from here, there, and everywhere. And then like we were watching. We saw these bikes keep coming in, but that wasn't our main focus because the other platoon was doing a clearance down at their end and then clearing around, and they were getting in a gunfight every other day. Then the Overwatch was getting in a gunfight. So for the first 3 days, it was just gunfight after gunfight, but never for like hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
It was just, okay, yep, this happened. That compound gave us a bit of stick. Like, it was just, yeah. So for the new guys coming in, that first trip out, and I even said to them, I said, lads, this isn't normal. Don't expect to every time you go out that you're going to get 3 days of consistent gunfighting, when it ended up being actually 5 days of consistent gunfighting. So, yeah, it was.
So at that point, it was different to 06 and 08?
Because of the location that we went to, the enemy had freedom of manoeuvre. Their resupply routes were getting resupplied by motorbikes. They had the high ground where the belly button feature was, which is where the OC had taken that one. So they took one of their positions away, but over to the south and southwest or southeast was another feature that was hitting us. And then along the feature where the Overwatch was, it was just, yeah.
So was 2010 the surge? Was that when the troops from America, that was the surge when they came in as well when you were in country?
No, they'd been there their whole time. The Americans in general, you mean?
No. So the big surge when Obama, he brought in the new, there was, I think, 100,000 American troops brought in.
Oh, possibly. I mean, I honestly wasn't even thinking of it. I just stayed out of the politics. If more people are coming, cool, let's all get in the fight.
Yeah.
I was so into commanding my team. Is that my boy? So far into commanding my team that, and dealing with the officer who wasn't allowing me to do certain things through this whole trip that, I was just really consumed with that. And then, we went to, my team alone. So on that first job, the Gombad Valley, we'd been getting hit for a couple of days, and me and Muzz, even on the first contact, let's go, we'll go over there, we'll do this, and, we're just getting straight into the tempo that's required for me and Muzz, because Muzz is like, yep, boom, boom, and it just happens with Muzz. So if you're not ready, and Muzz goes, then you're not going. So you've just got to switch lanes, and the boss has gone to me, just settle down, it's all right. And I said, don't tell me to settle down. I know exactly what I'm doing. Me and Muzz have done this many a time before.
Yep.
And this is literally his first time outside the wire and his first contact. So I was like, yeah, but you know what I mean? Respectfully, sir, I'm going to do my thing. This is my business.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Anyway, so that's how that happened. No, I suppose that sort of added fuel to the fire of the relationship, which we kept professional, especially from my end, but it just wasn't, didn't go well. Anyway, so, the first gunfight sort of set conditions for me and Mars and what we're trying to do, and Mars would go out and do his bit, obviously with the orders that were given, then I go out and do my bit, and, then I got attached to, another section, so another senior needed something, so we went and chased up this mountain looking for these people, so I was just his second team. I said, you tell me where you want me, because I'm a professional. That's the task. That's what we're doing. My boys are still in it. We're still amongst it. And we chased, I'm talking, 1,000 feet mountain. Climbing.
Yeah, right.
Up and chasing. And at this point, in it's quite funny. And I tell people this, and I try and look at it as a life lesson. It's not like I can tell the Taliban to stop. I just need to have a break. And I chuckled to myself, and I'm like, wow. Imagine if I wanted to stop right now. Because I did, but imagine if I was able to, and we could sit down and we could,
hang on, we'll just stop, we'll have a drink.
And that was a moment in time where it's like, okay, war doesn't stop. You just got to keep going. And I was like, okay. And we're going up in altitude, so the air's getting thinner and thinner. But, I mean, that Secco, he was good to go. He was always good to go. So that's sort of how that happened. And then day 3 had rolled over. We got the extension to stay. And then the OC needed resupply, so that's when H came down out of the mountain. And I relate this back to selection of putting in the hard yards, and my team was tasked to resupply the command team, and we set up a position where we could cover the creek line because we were going through a fire lane. I had my gun and my marksman covering an angle, and then me and I think one of my other diggers, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't my 2IC. I had my 2IC running the gun and the marksman, and then me and my other digger, we went and carried, like, I had a sandbag in each arm and a sandbag on top of my gear, and each sandbag was full of ammunition and food and water. So you're talking 20, 30 kilos each bag, and then you're walking on uneven ground, and it's like the moment, like, this is selection. This is what it does for you. This is the conditioning required just to get the job done. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just resupplying somebody that needs food, water, and ammunition. That's it.
And what weight were you at this point?
In 2010, I was probably at my heaviest as a team commander. So I was probably about 66, 64 kilos.
Yeah, right. You're heaviest at 66 kilos.
Yeah, maybe. Let's put it into perspective. In 2001, so I joined the army at 58. In 2006, when I was Brett's 2IC, I was 61 kilos. I was benching 105 and doing 100 and chin-ups in 3 sets. That's just because I was eat, sleep, shit, fight, train, repeat. Like, that was it. Yep. So, like I said, and all the supplements were there, protein, you name it. You're in the gym. So I was super lean. Obviously, we're walking, like kilometres carrying your own body weight for me anyway. Anywhere from 40 to 60 kilos is your body armour, depending on task and depending on requirements. Time frame could indicate water, food. Anyway, so yeah, just lean. And if we're at the truck and we'll come back from a mission and we're not going until tomorrow, then the ammo liners come out, like the 50 cals or the 40, and we're just doing bicep curls and chin ups and push ups, and like the spare barrels from the heavy weapons come out, and you're doing bench press, and it's just. You literally just being a bush gym. Right. And that was every day. Or it was push-ups challenge. Like one guy, he was doing. So I was doing 20-20s, which is 20 push-ups every minute for 20 minutes. So that's 400 push-ups, and that became very, very easy. And I'm not even showing off, or it just because you got to think about it. There's not much to do, so you just do you. So, but my mate, the honey badger, he was doing 50-50s. He was doing 50 push-ups every minute for 50 minutes. 2,500 push-ups in an hour. Easy. But that's just how fit some of the guys got. And that was just like, yeah, cool. And that was a challenge. Yeah. But I'm like, I wasn't going to, I might have got to 30-30s, but I was happy doing 20-20s. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I'd just do something else. Where he just wanted to see how many push-ups he could do. I'm like, yeah, that's crazy, man. That's nuts.
Far. So, and getting, so as you say, that's what selection does. You're restocking.
Yep.
Like, uneven ground, you go back to your selection days. That's what it is. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. And the lessons learnt, and then the application of not so much the task, the mindset. Because you're conditioning. I'm conditioned to do this. So I just do it. And it needs to be done. And, I had my gunner. I'm not going to take over his gun because I need him to do the heavy lifting. His task is the gun. He carries that every day. So I'm not going to take your gun so you go and lift some more shit. I went and did the task, which is good in a way because I get to speak to the company sergeant major, see how they're doing, do a fist pump. Yeah, mate. And then he had to climb up that hill again. I'm like, wow, man. He just came down with nothing, and he's going up with what I carried to him. He left heaps. Yeah. Obviously, we took what we could back. But that resupply, we just, which was good because for the next 2 days we needed food and water and ammo anyway.
So was that a kinetic? That action?
It ended up being very kinetic.
Yeah, right. So not as kinetic as your previous trips, or?
I would put it down to like the op-perth clearance kinetic, but not the numbers, if that makes sense. So we're still, like the intent with op-perth was, okay, we're going to clear and we know we're going to get contact. We didn't know that until we got to the belly button feature, and we'd already set Overwatch. So, you know, like you see the enemy in the morning with their binos out sitting in the long grass, but they don't know that you can see them, but they know exactly where every one of your positions are because they look at that dirt every day. They don't have TV. They have their surrounding. So if they see something like a rock's moved, they know that someone's up there that's moved that rock. So it's, you know, and then the funny thing is I only had my gun on that trip. So everything else was 5.56 plus 40 mil. They had all 7.62. So they got overreach for their small arms weapons. And if they knew how to actually shoot them, we were brown bread.
Yeah, right.
For sure, easy.
So what was happening, with Troy and Muzz at this point, like that story?
Well, to go back, last day, there was a task to secure the extraction HLZ and to have overwatch of the clearance force as it approaches the last village, which needed to be cleared. And initially, it was probably going to be a section task. For whatever reason, it just ended up being my team. So early morning that morning, under night, we go up into a overwatch position of the extraction HLZ, which I had my gun and the glass so they can get as much distance. I had my 2IC covering the village and the enemy infill route, so which was a massive big corridor, and myself and an engineer. So we had someone take us up there for IEDs, and we were covering and watching the observation of the patrol as they come through. So we'd always have eyes on, and then I could watch them approach the village. I'd have eyes on the village, and then once they're finished, I've got the HLZ secured for extraction for the company. So we're talking about a company HLZ extraction. Anyway, so at about mid-morning, my 2IC had no comms, so he ran back. And what are you running around for? I got no comms and got this happening. And I'm like, so he runs back, but for now, our positions, well and truly, they know exactly where we are. So about, let's say, half an hour later, my senior digger was on the glass with my gunner, and they were getting really tired, so they'd been on the glass for maybe 3-4 hours, and they needed to change out to keep, the discipline, and I'm happy for him to watch the advancing because, he was well and truly knew exactly what he was doing. So I said, yeah, no dramas, you come out, I'll go in. So they crawled out, left the gun there, and just as I turned to go into the position, we got our ass handed to us, and rounds were just going everywhere. So it was nuts. They crawled out. They had one M4 between them. My senior digger gave his M4 to the gunner, who was digging in with his eyebrows because he couldn't get in the dirt deep enough because the rounds were just going absolutely everywhere, and they were just pinging off walls. My 2IC, I couldn't get any comms, but I can see the dust kicking up from all the rounds that were striking around their position. And then the gun was left out there with all the gun ammunition in the position of overwatch of the HLZ. So I give my M4 to my senior digger. I said, you cover me, I'm going. So I said, you ready? No dramas. I said, look, that's my angle, that's my arc. I'm just going to run on that arc, pick up the gun and the ammo, and I'm going to come back. Yep, ready? Yep, go. So I just stand up and I just start running. There's rounds just pinging, ting, 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 all off the shale. I'd already been fragged in the back, and I just pick up this gun, the adrenaline's pumping. I pick up the webbing, let's say anywhere from 80 to 100 kilos. We're talking 400 rounds of 7.62, water, food, everything. And I just throw the gun and the webbing like it's nothing. Took a while, and the force of me throwing it separated the webbing. So it just all came to pieces. So they got these wires that when you jump into the water, you can pull your gear and your gear just falls off you and you can float to the top. Well, those wires just came apart. like the pressure of me throwing that webbing. Anyway, so the webbing was apart, the gun was there. I said, right, you come here, you come to this position. He took that position. He was now firing at the enemy, which was out there. I get my M4 again. I crawl around to the right side of him, and I said, look, I'm going to go around and get the boys. And then I'm like, are you ready? And he goes, yeah, you ready? And I'm like, fuck, yeah. All right, I'm ready. And I just prayed to God, and I'm like, fuck, Lord, be with me. Because there was just rounds going absolutely everywhere. And then I call this a hand of Brian, because my senior scout, his name was obviously Brian. He just puts his hand on my calf, and he goes, you'll be right, mate. He just puts his hand there. Like, there's rounds going everywhere. So I get up, Benny Hillen, running around. I'm just doing this massive dance, and this little corridor that goes around to where my 2IC was and my marksman. And then I just turn around, as I crest or come around the corner, I just see this massive arse. So, like, he was ducked down. So think of a piece of pie or a pizza, and a piece of the pizza is missing, and his head is buried into that hole in the rock. And I just run up to him, and I just slap him on the ass, and he just pops his head up like a rabbit out of a hole. And I said, what are you doing? And he goes, I didn't want to get shot in the head. And he'd already been fragged. So he had this massive big frag mark from where he'd actually landed next to his head and pushed the shale rock into his forehead.
Wow.
And he had 3 eyes. It looked like, honestly, it was 3 eyes. And he goes, I just didn't want to get shot into the head. So he was happy to get shot in the arse. He didn't care where he got shot. He just didn't want to get shot in the head. So he had this massive arse sticking out of this rock. And I slapped it, and he's like, ah! I said, well, you go. I picked up his 203, and I ran past him because my other mate was just forward of him. And I jump over him, and he's around this big boulder, just cuddling it, where he'd just been, like, getting rocks, like, shot at.
Yeah.
So he'd been shot through the glove, just in his web of his hand, and it missed, like maybe a burn mark. And I go. And as I jump over him, I just start loading the 203 with 40mm grenades and, like, just start wailing on the 3 enemy advancing positions. And they just, like, I fuck them up. Well, they don't come any further. And then once he's broken back, I then break back, give everyone their weapons, make sure everyone's got it. So now we're sitting in a tighter group, and over the radio, I throw red smoke. I'm like, how many Cas you got? How many Cas? I'm like, I got no Cas, but red smoke was all that I had. Like, you got to understand that people's webbing, they couldn't get to their equipment. I couldn't yell at them to throw smoke. So I only had red smoke, so I threw the red smoke, which meant casualty. So my boss was so fixated that, why did you throw red smoke? There's no Cas. I said, that you don't understand. That's all I had, and I needed some cover. So, and then the snipers end up coming up in position. I give them a few target indications. They find a couple of individuals. They go about their business, and I'm just sitting there going, holy shit. So we then need to still cover the helo extraction, and we're observation for the snipers because we're watching the enemy resupply route where the bike was coming in. And then we give the target indication to the snipers, and the bloke on the 50 cal just sees this bloke who'd been bringing in the ammo to resupply the enemy, and then he lines him up, and he just puts his stomach through his asshole with this 50 cal. Just like literally just turns him inside out. Yeah. It was just crazy. And I'm like, wow, that is impressive. Like, okay, like a dude just got folded in half, but
fair game, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Game over.
Yeah, game over.
Yeah, so then we're still securing the company HLZ, and Nighty brings in the birds because he's our JTAC, so he controls all the birds coming in. And so the whole company starts moving. We're still up in the high ground. Most of the company's formed up. The helos come in. We run down. And one of the bikes, the quad bikes, is not starting. And there's all these people around this bike. And like, what's going on? And then the confusion set in, and we found what the problem was, but it was too late. The engine was going. And then we had the birds were landing. We couldn't move the bike, and there was all these equipment on the bike. It just ended up being like the Benny Hill show. But we wanted to get out of there very quick. So the birds land. Norm's there. We all get on. The bird takes off, goes around. What's going on? We land again. Norm had been blown over, knocked out unconscious, alone on the HLZ. No one else is in country anymore. We're all on these birds. And so we re-land the bird down ramp, and here comes Norm running onto the back of the aircraft like left him behind. I'm like, what? Oh, so it was like a culmination of events. So, it was crazy.
Far out. And then...
That was the first job in 2010.
First job?
First job.
So, how much more kinetic does the 2010 deployment get?
Oh, it was funny. I fired 2 javelins on this trip. So that was, what was that, July? So there's a few little ones in and around, but I'm not going to go into every gunfight or every scenario. On the 4th of October, we were going through the Badlands where Alpha Company had one of their Bushmasters destroyed by an IED, and we had one of our javelin rounds going out of date because they can only last a certain amount of time, and then they've got to be either burned or used. So H is like, hey, let's just use it. Let's see what it does to a armoured vehicle. There's the remnants of that vehicle there. So we were the last vehicle in, and we were going up this hill. I was sitting on top of the car getting ready to fire the javelin at our own vehicle to see what the impact would be. And then our rear diff wasn't working. So we had no diff lock, so we couldn't get up the hill. And just as we got stuck down the bottom, the enemy hit us. So they hit us with RPGs and small arms. And I'm like, I'm already on the roof. I've already got a javelin. So I just lock onto where the RPG came from. And I went click. And it didn't do anything. And I'm like, what? So I went off, on, which is a drill. Click. Didn't do anything. So I take the missile off, and the whole front of the missile has been shot. So it's all the fuel and everything there. It's not, so it can't be fired.
Yeah, right.
So that was the one that was to be destroyed, and it was a fresh one there. So I just get the fresh one out. I put the fresh one on, and I just bang this javelin out 980 metres straight onto this RPG spot. Boom! So no more RPGs are coming, but there's a little bit of small arms fire. Whilst I'm doing that, everyone else is just working their ass off to build blocks so that the tyres can actually get up this re-entrance so that we can get out of there.
Yeah, right.
So all the diggers, I'm up there having fun, I'm shooting a javelin, everyone else is running around getting shot at, just moving rocks so that we could get the car out of the way. So anyway, a little bit goes by and we get the car up and we come up to the top and we crest and we marry up with the rest of the call sign. And then, the bad thing, I wouldn't say bad things happened, unprofessional things happened by certain individuals at that time, and we're just coming on dusk and we're just about to go through a IED field, and it was just getting heaps dark, so we would just start like a culmination of diff lock, the contact, the after effects of the contact, then trying to clear through this valley. It was just like, okay, we need to make this happen, we need to make it happen now. So that happened, and I remember it being the 4th of October because I fired my next one on the 4th of November. But in between that, on the 14th of October, so only 10 days later, we were doing a kinetic clearance of a village. But my call sign was, I think the other platoon was actually the kinetic platoon, and we were the Overwatch platoon. So we were all in like set positions around, and my call sign had all these, so we were like, you couldn't see us, which was awesome, but I had my gun up covering this creek line, and my marksmen were both up there. Then my 2IC was down the bottom so he could manage them, and then my senior digger and myself were down the bottom and I was on comms, and then because we're going to be there all day, we'd go through, someone's on watch, and then out of those two, they're 50-50, the rest of us are 30%. So one would always be awake here, one was always up there, always on comms, listening to, and then we just rest. Anyway, my senior digger was there and goes, "Hey, we've got fighting age males moving down the creek line." I'm like, "Yeah, they have any weapons?" No. All right, just keep watching. Just keep watching them. Hey, Bergs, we've got more fighting age males moving down this creek line. Yeah, they got any weapons? No. Just keep watching them, mate. Just keep watching them. And then, Bergs, we've got 3 guys moving. There's weapons. Ping! I'm straight up, and I'm just running down this creek line because I know I've got Overwatch.
Yeah.
And I'm just running, and then so this let's call him the mullah, which was the religious leader or whoever it was. He had a PSD of 2, so he had a close protection security. So he was someone, and he had a security element of 2, and they ran and married up with every other fighting age male that had just left the village. So there's now 14 fighting age males on the back of this Hilux trying to get out of town so they can go and get all their weapons. So he had weapons, and there was other weapons in the car, and I'm just running, and I've got my rock climbing shoes on, so I'm just running down this face of this like cliff edge with my grippiest shoes I've ever had, running down, Drej, asura por cá, which means stop, put your hands up, stop, put your hands up. And then all the guys at the back, there were still 5 more guys, plus the commander and his 2 guys, they ditch their capes and they run with their weapons and they duck off, and then they get into the back of the Hilux. So, and he's going, go, like you can tell him, he's like, go, and I'm like, they're probably a good 150 metres away, and I'm just like, as fast as I can. So there's me, my 2IC, and my senior digger chasing after these guys with the medic, who is my gunner and my marksman, Overwatch. So perfect.
Yeah, right.
And I'm on the comms, hey guys, there's fighting age males moving. So I'm talking to the other team commanders now, and we're just chasing these guys. And then whoever fell at the back, which ended up being my senior digger, we captured 5 dudes on the way. You stay with them, and he was devastated because he just couldn't come after us with the rest of the guys who, like and they just started putting away. And I'm talking an old 1980s Hilux here, full of what's that? So it was 5 guys. Still had 9 dudes on this car, and you can see him getting ready. He's just turned around, and you can see his 2 PSD just about to lift their weapons, and I'm just on the straight to a knee, crack. Straight through the chest of one dude, and then crack, and then I get the passenger straight through the neck, and then the rest of them just D-bus run, and you see the PSD and him, they run around to the right, which is where my other team was, or one of my section commanders. I said, bro, they're moving to you, and you're talking cliff edge, you're talking rocks, you're talking, there's probably a cave around there that they know about, and they were gone. And we just chased them up as much as we could. And then there was another 2 guys with weapons moving, was that south east? So they were going east. So I knew that my marksman could shoot about 900 they're trained to shoot out to a kilometre. So there was this big rock about 900 metres. So me and my 2IC, I said, we're not going any further than that. And it was funny because we had the Apache come on station. And so I'm controlling the battle space and talking to the other team commanders and doing everything else. And I said, you take control of the helicopter. And so he had the Apache online, and we just said, oh, we're going to move this far. We just could not find any of them. They were just hidden absolutely everywhere. And anyone that knows Afghanis, they can run. You know, like there's not much of them, and they're conditioned to walk kilometres and days with their cattle. They just don't stop. And you're trying to catch them carrying, 60 kegs and all your fighting armour and everything else, and then still be tactical, and then not just run off and, die behind a rock. So, and then anyway, so we went that 900 metres, and I said, no, we're not going any further. And then we just patrolled back to the vehicle and where the 5 dudes were. And in looking in the back of the car, obviously I knew there'd be a body in there, but he was still alive. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, sucking chest wound, because I got him straight through the chest. I'm like, how'd that not kill you? But because of the rounds, it's just gone in, out, straight through.
Yeah, right.
But, and he was trying to talk to me and everything else. So I got the medic in, and he goes, mate, he's going to die. And I said, well, just work on him and see how you go and try and keep him alive. But he kept him alive for a little bit, and then he obviously died from his wounds. Plus, he'd been in there longer. If we'd got to him probably earlier, we might have been able to save him. But because we'd patrolled and cleared up that 900, he's been bleeding out that whole time. There was no saving.
Oh, it's
But I was quite annoyed. It was the 14th of October, which is the day before my birthday. So I was like, you couldn't wait one day. You couldn't. I mean, then in hindsight, I looked at it and I got an early birthday present.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, that was my last real gunfight in like close proximity. And then the 4th of November, we went into this massive harbour. We were just harboured up for the afternoon, getting ready to do orders. And actually all the team commanders were over at the platoon commander's car doing some confirmatory orders, and we were all talking about, the task coming up. And next thing you know, we hear this crack, and it ended up being about 2.2 k's away, a 106, and it had landed in the middle of our vehicle harbour, right smack bang in the middle. No cars were in there, but that's where it landed. And then I'm like, where'd that come from? What was going on? And then we all ran back. So I ran back to my car, and on last light, I had a rule at my car. If we're in a harbour, you get the javelin. It comes in two parts. You got the clue and then the missile. But because the clue, and at last light or in the late afternoon, the rocks get cooler and heat signatures step out. So you can just scan the area and you can find if there's anyone out there. My driver, he was already on the roof with the clue doing his afternoon scans to check. So I run back, I jump on the roof, crack, another one comes in, but it fell short, this one. And then I look up over into the distance, and the mortars are getting ready, and they're getting ready to fire, and I see this fire. I'm like, oh, there's a fire over there, what's that? It wasn't a fire, it was the third round, just got it fired, and I could actually see straight down the tube at 2.2 k's, and the ignition of that round. So the third round come in, and I'm like, what? So then, and it was up on this little re-entrant. There was nothing on the maps to state that there was any compounds or village there or absolutely anything, nothing on there. And then, so mortars are just like crack, 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 all the way around it, but missed it. And I'm already on the roof with this javelin, and I'm like, javelin firing now, and just like, so it's got two motors. It's got the ignition motor, and then it's got the flight motor. So the ignition motor goes, and I'm sitting on top of a Bushmaster. It drops down, and then the flight motor kicks in, and it goes straight over the top of the mortar team. And they're all like, oh, that's sick. And they just watch this rocket go over their heads. And it goes. And I had it on top attack. And it went for 2.2 Ks. And boom, straight on target. And then you see Muzz, let's go. So I had to get off there. And Muzz is, if it's on, it's on. Like I said, if you're not there, don't come. You just don't even bother. And we did that 2.2 Ks, I reckon, in 5 minutes flat. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
We sprinted to get to the location, the whole section, and that's with, being the forward call sign, and then the platoon commander bought, we had to leave security. So then the platoon commander brings the team. So there's one team and then drivers and everyone else left at the VDO. We crest this little feature with this hill, and there's this creek line, and it's just a compound.
Far out.
So we breach into this, we kick the door in, and there's nothing. There's no one there. There's nothing there. Oh, sorry about this. And, because, in this general vicinity, someone has fired something at us, but we didn't even know that compound was there. And we're like, oh. And, they're just women sitting inside and doing their thing, and, oh, yeah, nothing. And we go outside and we're like, oh. So we had to, you have this patrol cache. It's like, oh, sorry, we kicked in your door. Here's some compensation money, and, we'll be on our way. And as we go out, we just see all these little air vents, and then we follow the air vents down, and we find this underground cave. And then what we'd done is we left someone at the cave, and it was my job to go up and do a battle damage assessment of my javelin, which I found an actual piece of my javelin round, and I brought it home with me. And no shit, it's a piece of the missile. It's carbon fibre. Oh mate, it's great.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'll find it somewhere, and I'll have it mounted. And I find at the other end of the cave, at the other end of where the thing was, there was a cave entry. So there was a top entry of the cave, and that's where they'd put the 106, and they tucked it all in there. So I get back down the bottom to the compound, and they'd found the cave that goes all the way underneath the house and marries up, but they didn't go in, and they just followed all the things, and you could tell that it linked up to the top cave. So I called in 2 500-pounders from the drone. So we had a drone on station. I called in 2 500-pounders onto the top cave. So the javelin did nothing, mortars did nothing, 500-pounder, and this was danger close. So danger close, we're tucking up against these compound walls because you get, like, even though they're at elevation to where we were, but danger close is like within a certain distance of the impact that you've got to be in cover, otherwise you're possibly going to get fragged from the round. Anyway, so I called in danger close 2 500-pounders onto this top cave, and my mate, who's at Raffy, who I put through selection, he was in control of dropping the bombs. Such an awesome individual. I think he's one of the commanders now of the 4 Squadron guys. Yeah, Duff man. Legend, super smart. And so he called in the first one. I said, no, another one. Drops another 500-pounder, danger close. We're all tucked into this wall, and you could just feel the debris, just like.
And the concussion would be
it wasn't too bad. I mean, for everything else we've done, like, you could feel it, but it wasn't like that intense.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so I go back to the entry to the cave, and I said, "Oh, so what'd you find in there?" And they're like, "No one's going in there. No one wanted to go in there." I'm like, "What do you mean no one's going in there?" So I go and look at the entry, and I'm like, "I'll go in there," but it was real narrow, which was good because I didn't want to walk on the floor. So I could, you used to be able to shimmy wall to wall. So me and my 2IC were the only two that were keen. Well, I said, I'm going in. Well, if you're going in, I'm going in. So I led in. I had my pistol, took all my gear off. He took all his gear off. He had a pistol and a grenade. I said, what's the grenade for? And he goes, well, if we get shot, I'm pulling this pin and we're all going to die. Like, literally, that was the mindset. Like, that's how intense. But he wasn't even joking. I'm like, right, okay, cool. But he was behind me. So we get in there and we're like shimmying, leg. We get probably 10 metres in, we look up to the left. There's a snub-nosed machine gun and a 303 tucked into the wall. And then so we get them out. Well, we get them on the way back, and we keep going, and then there's like this air vent. So it's all concreted in, air for ventilation. So this thing is like mad.
A setup, like
a full setup.
Yeah, right.
And then you can start smelling the marijuana. So we go a little bit further. All the dudes were underground, getting high as a kite, getting ready to come fight. Like, you can just smell the marijuana just getting stronger and stronger. And as we went in, the pebbles, like the bottom of a creek pebble, were all there, but no water. And it started getting lower and lower. And then so I'm getting down, and I'm still shimmying on the wall. And I don't know if we should go any further. But, our angles are going to be really cut off here. And if they just want to stick a gun down there, then I'm like, we'll go a little bit more. And then as I start putting my feet down on the pebbles, it's making a noise, and I'm like, well, we're giving ourselves up here. So I said, yeah, let's go back. So as we go back, we go out, I'm like, yeah, we found this, and they said, yeah, we were following you at the top, and we got the snub nose and the 303 out, and then the boss just said, okay, no drama. So he went in there and packed the whole cave tunnel system full of explosives, and we just leveled the whole thing. It was so cool. And you know what? It was just such a good job. And I'm like, yeah, that was epic. That was good.
For that, like, you've been shot at. You'd been, 06, 06, 08, 2010. Going into that cave, did you feel like, or is it just you?
Oh no, that was. See, I always told my boys, regardless of my position, I'm the smallest. Any caves I'm going in. There was another cache that me and my 2IC blew up. He was my demolitions dude. We jumped down into this massive hole, and underneath it was like a big pallet, and we didn't know what was under there, and I didn't want to lift it up in case it was like a detonation, because it was a dug hole, and it was like a cache. You knew that there was something in that hole that wasn't meant to be there, and it's not meant to be seen. So it was an odd square hole, like that you could nearly fit 6 people in.
Far out.
So we roped in to this hole. My 2IC planted all these charges. I've got footage of it somewhere, And we just sit down there, we're across the way, and he blows it, and you just see the whole thing go up. And it's like, yeah, wow, that was good to go. But, I mean, that's the flexibility also of being within a Special Forces team. There is a mission to be done. If it coincides with that mission, then the platoon commanders and the commanders themselves, like, they don't go, you will do this, you will do that. Like, that they understand the flexibility required, and we just, as long as we're communicating, we're understanding, because we're not just out there being flippant and doing odd things. Everything is mission focused. So, I mean, that's a luxury with being Special Forces. It's like the control is there, the command is there, and it's just like the experience is there. And then, so that was the 4th of November, and then we had one more job, I think it was, before we came home in December. Yeah, that's it. That's right. I lost my eyebrows. So, so we had this job to do just before coming home, and there was a sleeper cell within Tarankout. And there was a job that you could only take a certain amount of people on. I ended up taking me, my 2IC, and my senior digger, and I left the gunner and the sniper back at base. And the job was, we would be on a motorbike, a 6-wheel motorbike, or I think I had a 4. No, I had a 6. I had a 4 or a 6-wheel motorbike, and I had one on the front, one on the back. And the task was that we would surround this sleeper cell compound, and then we'd go in and do a raid on this compound on motorbikes, in Tarankout, straight up the main street, straight off the road. Anyway, one of our bikes crashed, so I just reacted, because we had a bushmaster full of gunfighters that would just go and assault this compound. So I got another one of his dudes, chucked him on my bike, and I just went. And what I did, I just went past all these houses, knew my drop-off points, and I just started kicking people off the bike. This is your cordon position, this is your cordon position, this is your cordon position. Yep, all cordon set, and they just drove in. And the guys that crashed the bike, they just ran in with the rest of the guys. So we had this bike that was crashed into a culvert. But before we went, there was this picture on... I said, oh, that's Matullah Khan. It wasn't. And they said, is that Matullah Khan? I said, yeah, that's Matullah Khan, isn't it? Yeah, that's him. And they said, eyebrows, that's him. So what eyebrows means is if you're wrong, then you've got to shave your eyebrows off. I said, yeah, that's Matullah Khan. Eyebrows, that's no dramas. It wasn't, though. So I went and did this job. It was the sickest job. You know, we're hitting a sleeper cell.
Yeah.
And I get back, saved the day, yeah, no dramas. I don't think that anyone was in the compound at the time. I get back, and all the boys are just waiting in the rec room. They didn't care about the job. They said, hey, Bergs. I said, yeah, what's going on? How was your job? Oh, yeah, it was good. They didn't want to know anything. Who's that, Bergs? That's Matullah Khan. Your eyebrows that, didn't it? Yeah, that's not Matullah Khan, mate. They didn't give a shit about the mission. All they wanted, and mind you, in a week, I'm on a plane back to Australia. I got photos, I don't know if they're on this fridge or my wife's put them away, Christmas photos with me getting home from this job with no eyebrows. It was just like, the boys got me, and they didn't care about the job. They just cared that I had no eyebrows going home, and integrity is everything within the job. So It's like, yeah, bro. So I went home. My missus wasn't happy. I had no eyebrows, and thank God they grew back. So, but that was the last job I did in Afghan in 2010.
Far out. And like, so you come back, no eyebrows, come back 2010, and then 2011, you start at the school. Yeah, so
I got posted for whatever reason. To be honest, I'm glad that I went to the school. I was becoming very comfortable. I was probably due to, two tours as a team commander, as a junior team commander. You'd be due to do your sergeant courses anyway and then move on. And you've got to do external postings. So I actually got posted with a couple of other mates from Delta to... then SFTC, a Special Forces Training Centre at the time. Now it's whatever name they've named it now. And I did 3 years there. So 2011, 12 and 13. And that was every course, every selection, instructing, supervising. It was absolutely the best time and probably the best job I've ever done in the military.
Yeah, right.
And I say that with all the gunfighting that I've done. The most rewarding job was going to the school as an instructor.
So on your 2010 deployment, did you guys have any KIA or did you?
No. Just Marksy was our only.
Yeah, right.
And that gunfight was for any CAS.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. And so going to the school now, you're in a training role, so everything that you'd learned, all your gunfighting, this was you're now shaping the regiment.
I'm now giving back
Yeah.
to the regiment, and it was, everyone goes, like, you can have a course off here. I never actually took a course off. I really enjoyed my time at the regiment. At the training command.
Yeah,
really did. And it's funny because my commandant that was there, he was the OC that when I assaulted that pit. He was the OC at the time. So then this is his first. So he was the lieutenant colonel at the school, and he had a photo on his desk of the glory photos I took after the Dead Man's Click.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back a second because you got a commendation for gallantry.
I did.
What trip was that?
2010.
2010. So
yeah, that was the Hand of Brian.
Yeah, right. So that happens, and then I want to talk about the day that shocked you to the core, the death of your mentor, Brett Wood. How were you that day?
It was funny because we were supervising on the ACQB course, the Advanced Close Quarter Battle course, and I was getting ready just to go up to the range. As a supervisor, you have a little bit of flexibility, and the other guys are up there already getting ready to get the dry practice run going and set the range up, and I was just about to head up, and one of my good mates came in, who was one of the warrant officers there, and he's just looking at me, and he goes, "Bro," he goes, Brett's been killed." I'm like, "Fuck off, no." He goes, "Bro, Brett was killed. It was Brett." And I just started crying. I'm like, and he just hugged me, and like a dad to a child, and not that that's how it was. And my head was in his shoulder, and I'm like, no way, like, and I was just. He goes, "You want to take the day? You want to?" And I'm like, no, I'm not taking the day. So I got in the car, went up to the range, and they were doing dry practice just as I got there, and they were only really just starting, and then all the other instructors were told, and they'd seen I'd been crying, and I just start staunching the back of the DPs. "Fucking men, a warrior died today, right? He was the best of us, blah, blah, blah." And I'm just giving this spiel. I'm like, this is why you train to be the best, so that you can deal and be the best in any situation, blah, blah. I'm just, and I just started staunching. I was just up and down, and then, no one really liked me because I don't miss much as an instructor. I'm very self-aware, probably because everything they do is at my eye level. Like, I just don't miss anything.
Yeah.
Like pockets undone, how they carry their weapon, disengage their safety catch. It's right in my eye line, so I don't miss much. So, so I just stayed up there that day, and then got the full details of what happened on the day, and it was next level.
Because as as we've said throughout the podcast, mate, like, he was your mentor. You served with him in 06. You were 2IC to him. He was your mentor. Mate, I get it. Yeah, I absolutely get it. Like, he was, he was a mate.
Yeah, but he was the best of us. I mean, Cam Baird, sure, and I understand Cam, and I do put him emotionally in the same professionalism as Brett, but I didn't have the opportunity to stand next to Beardy and justify how good he was, even though I knew, that other people would say exactly the same thing, but Brett was just the best of them. He was just so good at what he did. He was so humble, and he just loved doing it, and he was like, look at his sister now. She's on the committee at one of the foundations, and, it's just, like, if I'm having a bad day and if I'm not feeling the best, I always... Okay, there's people here that have given their life for me to be able to breathe air. make the most of it. And I really try and tell myself it. I mean, it's a bit hard with 4 kids, to do anything else but be consumed by them. But, I'm aspiring to dabble in a few other things and really put myself out there again. So.
And I think, too, it's, like you say, and as you know, because you've seen it firsthand, is how short life is. And you've seen it firsthand being in combat, and you've lost so many good men out of the regiment. And you're right that we're only here a short time. We've got to make the most of while we're here.
Oh yeah. But in 2011, I mean, then you got Todd that went not long after, and then you got what's his name? Got shot.
Ron Robson.
No, I understand him as well, but no, Heath gets shot through the neck.
Yep.
That's the same day as Todd.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just nuts. Or the same period, the same area of operations, it's just nuts. Just crazy. And, good men that just wanted to do the job. So. And
you obviously have Brett's funeral.
Yeah. So I had the privilege of escorting Brett's grandmother as part of the family escort to his funeral, and it really puts into context a life lived. He's got his own spot in at Rookwood Cemetery. The boys go and have beers with him, his sister. Anyone that knows Brett, it's he changed a lot of lives just through his presence and his professionalism and the way that he gave himself. Whether it be on the drink with the boys, out having fun times, just having him in your presence just made everything better. Whether it be gunfighting, at work in general, out on the piss,
or just a general mentor.
Yeah, Brett was just Brett.
Yeah, right. So that happens, and then 2012, what's happening in 2012?
2012, Delta Company goes back over, and this is the first time I'm not part of the Delta Company rotation. And everyone, I wanted to be part of it, but it wasn't meant to be. And then I've got to live with that. They go into Helmand Province and they kick some ass, man, and they do some really cool stuff. And I'm really happy and proud that they got to experience their gunfighting in that way. I wish I was part of it, but again, in hindsight, I still gave back to the regiment by instructing. But it's quite ironic. My mate, who was a 2IC in 2010, with me moving on as a team commander, he got a team, and he got shot 3 times in 2012. One went through his leg, the other one was off his, other 2 rounds maybe off his body armour and 2 off his helmet. So, they went into some really bad lands, and his recovery was actually, I speak about it all the time to a lot of people. Yes, he got shot through the leg, and yes, he's still going now, and he's still very renowned within the regiment. But when the surgeon and the doctor came in and said, "What do you want to do today?" and he goes, "I want to go for a walk," and they're like, "Yes, let's go around the bed," and he's like, "Go around the bed? I want to go around the hospital." The mentality. And it sort of breeds into how we're bred. We just want to get on with life and get on the job. Yes, I've been shot. I'll deal with it. Let's just crack on. And I hold him very highly in regard for the way he is. And that was 2012, and that really hurt me as well. And then 2013, again, a lot of these guys became my friends that went through the Rio. You know what I mean? And I ended up instructing on the Special Forces corporal course. They used to do sub 1 with the rest of the army, and then they come and do their minor tactics within the command. So that was another good thing that was at that time.
I want to talk about where your career went on halt, and let's 2012. Let's
I nearly forgot about it.
Yeah,
That's weird. It's weird how you just sort of bypass things. 2012. It's quite funny. In 2011, I was off doing my sub 1 for sergeant again, going through the promotional process. And my wife was pregnant with my second, and she was really having a bad time of it. And I'd only been up there a week, and I rang my company sergeant major, and he goes, just go, I'll deal with the command. I actually rang the course manager. He goes, you can't just leave. I said, bro, I've rang my company sergeant major. He'll call you in the morning. I'm going. My wife needs me. And then, so I came home only a week off that course in 2011, which is quite ironic. In 2012, I went back on the same course, and we were going really good in the course. And halfway through, thereabouts, we're out in Civvy Street, at a civilian pub, having dinner, having pizza night, and karaoke. And I went and ordered my dinner, and I came back to the table, and everybody at that table that I was sitting with had their head down, and they were, not trying to make eye contact. And we're talking eight dudes, women, blokes, and probably 30 deployments between us all. And over my shoulder, I hear this chirping. And I look over my shoulder, and here's this 24-year-old lieutenant holding a teddy bear, because that's their course mascot, gobbing off hardcore at the rest of my course. And I'm like, I'm not going to go into what I said to the individual. It was, I put him in his place, and he didn't like it, nor did anyone else that was at that table at the time. And, then karaoke happened, and then we were singing, carrying on. I got up and done a song. One of my friends put me in, one of the girls in my section put me in to do a song. I got up and sang a song and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, the next morning I'm getting out of bed and there's no one around. And I get dressed. I'm like, what am I missing here? So I run up to the lecture room, and they're getting spoken to. And I go in, and everyone just looks at me, and everyone goes, you can't be here, bro. I'm like, what? No, you can't be here. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, you are to, and then one of the instructors, you are to go back to your room and you'll wait for the director. What the fuck's going on here? Anyway, I get back to my room, and I get a phone call, and it was my company sergeant major, or my training sergeant major at the time. And I'm like, hey, how you going? He goes, what? You don't fucking, how you going, me? I'm like, something happened. And he goes, you tell me if something happened. I said, sir, so I changed lanes, obviously. Sir, I have no idea what's going on. He goes, you telling me you have no idea? I said, sir, I have no idea what is going on. I've just been told to go back to my room. I have no idea what's going on. And he goes, you tell me why the Chief of the Army's calling me about sexual assault. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And he goes, you telling me you know? I said, sir, I know nothing about what you're going on about. He goes, right. And then next thing you know, the military police are there. I get in what do you call it? Interviewed. And I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Anyway, long story short, I've been accused of an act of indecency whilst out on the piss the night before. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, so one of the females on the course had made an accusation. So the accusation goes, and this is what the charge read, his right hand grazed my left breast while standing at the bar. I'm like, so it's a boob graze. And then after that, at no stage did he grab, grip or grope my breast. Okay. And then so the MPs, I'm like, did you do this? I had no idea what's going on. I have no idea what she's talking about. And then MPs go back. They did a full investigation. They interviewed, I don't know, the whole course, everyone. And then they come back with, there is no evidence that this happened. There's no evidence, blah, blah, blah. Comes back next day, you're being charged with an act of indecency. I'm like, they just said there's not enough evidence. No, Army wants to take this further. So here we go. All right, so I still finish the course, but I don't get my certificate of completion on the course. And anyway, I go back to the regiment, and it's 2012. So literally, so I'm waiting now to go to court. At this stage, my wife is like, what the fuck's going on? No, this is affecting my marriage and puts us on the rocks. And
it's affecting your career.
Oh, well, my career is gone. It's done. And I didn't know that until after the fact. So if it had gone differently within the courtroom, may have been saved, but I was already past the point anyway. So I'm in limbo now. I'm in admin, as they call it, till 2014. 2014, my course case comes up. It's a DFM. I asked for a court-martial because a court-martial has a jury. They said no. So it ended up going to a DFM, which is a Defence Force Magistrate, which is the judge making the deliberation on the charge. In short, she gets up. This didn't happen. None of this happened. Two of her witnesses get up. I was standing at the bar, and whilst at the bar, at no stage did I see him touch her on the breast. The other one goes, at no stage did I see him grab her around the waist. And then she goes, that didn't happen. At no stage did he grip or grab my breast. So all three of witnesses have stood up and said, I didn't do it. The day of deliberation, her lawyer comes in and goes, look, we're sorry we've stuffed you around. We're sorry that you've had to go through this process. We've shredded all the paperwork and we'll get you out of here as soon as possible. I'm like, oh, cool, no dramas. My lawyer goes, do you want to get up and say anything? I'm like, he goes, you don't have to because they've said that you haven't done it. So, it just gives them the ability to attack your credibility. I said, no, well, why get up then? Let's just cut it on. That's it. She's just come over. The lawyer's just come over and said, this is what I've done. I'm like, cool, let's just get it over and done with. Anyway, he comes out, goes through the evidence and goes, so he makes three assumptions. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years since this happened, so you forgot that he grabbed you on the breast. Remember, her statement states at no stage did he grab, grip or grope. He grazed. So then he goes, so it's been 2 years, you forgot that he grabbed you on the breast. That one stands. The guy at the bar, well, at the bar you must have looked away, and when you looked away, that's when he grabbed her on the breast. Defunct that. You weren't there the whole night. You didn't see that he grabbed her around the waist and did this, so defunct that. So he's made assumptions on three lots of the evidence. Guilty. So once you get the guilty, you've got to then justify your existence and validate your credibility yourself. And it's like, okay, well, this is who I am, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so he goes away. When we come back, you will present your evidence of credibility, and I will then deliberate on that for your punishment. In hindsight, well, not even hindsight, I should have been, regardless of what I put forward, dismissed from the military, and I would have sued them for every cent they had, and I would have gone, my life would have been over. Anyway, so comes back, we present the evidence. I've got letters from the Queen, I've got my commendation for gallantry, I've got my CDF commendations for courage and leadership under fire. I've got letters from all dignitaries around, and he's like, I need a recess. So he takes a recess, an extended recess. He comes back. All right, you're a modern day hero. 7 years loss of seniority. So I'd already been a corporal for 7 years. He's now taken 7 years seniority off me. I now have to be in rank for a minimum of another 5 years before I can be looked at to be promoted to sergeant. So that takes me to 2019. Time served. So it took me to 2017 or something like that anyway. Or 2018 I think it was, because that's when I was due to be promoted and posted to Singleton as a sergeant. Anyway, so that's how it all went down. And my lawyer goes, I said, I'm going to redress this. And he goes, well, the Army doesn't pay for redress, so that's coming out of your pocket, and that's about 30 grand. So there must have been something inside going on, whether it be my lawyer and everyone else had a let's get the SF operator, let's smack him down. Regardless of what anyone else said, there was never any evidence from the military police that there was to go ahead, and then it just went. So, and he got an OAM. I think he's got recently an OAM. Oh, mate, what a joke of a human. I don't care who he is. And then, so then back to the regiment, which is quite funny.
That was part 2 of our 3-part interview with former 2nd Commando veteran Craig Hamburger. Join us next week for part 3, the final instalment.
Raise your glasses, podcasters. This episode of True Blue Conversations is brought to you by Wet Canteen Bottling Company, the perfect way to commemorate and celebrate life's most special occasions. Elevate your moments, savour the taste, and make them truly unforgettable with Wet Canteen. Head on over to wetcanteenbottlingco.com.au and use the code TRUEBLUE for your exclusive discount. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of True Blue Conversations with your host, Adam Bloom. See you on the front line.